Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Heaven's Strongest Superman. Chapter 81. One punch, two punches, all smashed on the day of destruction, hitting the day of destruction without any change. Roar. The day of destruction, which was so painful to be beaten by Chu Yang, suddenly roared, and then the boxing speed suddenly increased, and dozens of punches hit Chu Yang's chest in succession. Could not help but fly out. It's still too reluctant. I can't keep up with his speed. There is no vermiculite, so it's not easy to deal with. Chu Yang stopped for a few dozen meters, and looked at the day of destruction with a dignified color. Roar. Destroyed by being unable to fly now, after giving a strong blow to Chu Yang, he fell to the ground. Watching Doomday fall to the ground, Chu Yang quickly leaned down and rushed down, kicking one foot towards Doomday's neck. Seeing Chu Yang kicking at himself, Destruction Day could not help avoiding it, then grabbed Chu Yang and beat him under his body. This chicken feather monster is too scary. I am not an opponent at all. System, is there any way to let me punch him? Feeling the pain from the face, Chu Yang quickly asked the system. Ding. The system has no way to help the host. This is an ordeal that must be experienced in the host's life, but I can remind the host that there is no IQ on the day of destruction. I just know that you can win on IQ. After that, the system sank. Go on. Nima, take a feather to win. Destroy Day can only be strangled with absolute power. What way do you think I can win? Chu Yang could not help but be angry if he heard the system. Later, looking at Destruction Sun's eyes firing a red laser, intending to kill himself, Chu Yang also started hot vision and fired at him. Good opportunity. Seeing Destruction Day only shoots at himself, without punching himself, Chu Yang secretly said in his heart, then he clasped Destruction Day's head with both hands, causing a twist of his whole body strength. Roar. Feeling the huge pain coming from the neck, Destruction Day could not help but cry out. Seeing that the day of destruction was painful, Chu Yang twisted again, but just before the head of the day of destruction was twisted to 180 degrees. It seemed that I heard something. I quickly looked back and saw more than a dozen missiles flying towards myself and the day of destruction. The response was unsatisfactory, and Chu Yang and the day of destruction were shot down by the missile. The target has been shot down. The target has been shot down. Please receive instructions, please. Receive instructions, please. Several Air Force soldiers who launched the missile saw the Destruction Day shot down and couldn't help but say to the communicator, "Good job." The leader of the military on the military aircraft heard the news and couldn't help expressing his excitement. The first and second squadrons were killed, but the monster was not hurt. Now it is used. Weapons of mass destruction have finally achieved a little gain. Although there are some triumphs and losses, the leader of the military department still dares not to underestimate this monster. After all, when he came here to handle this, the chief of the military department told him that if the weapons they brought were not alien species, causes harm, you must quickly report to him for a nuclear strike. Thinking of the commander's orders to leave, the commander of the military department hurriedly said to the Air Force general who shot down the Destruction Day, "Fastly lock the place where the monster fell, and be sure to kill it. Don't let him hurt anyone, humanity." On the ground, in a large pit up to 10 meters. What a silly missile. Lao Su almost sent the destruction to the sky. Climbing from the ground and looking at his ragged clothes, Chu Yang scolded. Roar, roar. Destruction Day also rose from the ground, watching Chu Yang growl, but he didn't do it, but stood still. What's wrong? Is it possible to evolve? Looking at Destruction Day, and feeling a strong sense of oppression in his body, Chu Yang's eyes were full of unprecedented dignity. Sure enough, as soon as Chu Yang's voice fell, bone spurs grew on the back of Destruction Day, and his height increased a lot. How do you fight this? Seeing the huge change in the day of destruction, Chu Yang suddenly shocked and said, he will never forget the scene in the comic that the day of destruction kills the normal Superman in this form. Roar. After yelling at Chu Yang, Destruction Day flashed and came to Chu Yang. He couldn't help but say that grabbing Chu Yang was a mess, and then flew out of the big pit. Near the monster's fall. No abnormalities are found at present, please indicate. In the sky, a pilot on a fighter plane reported the order to his superior. But he didn't want to. Just past the order, a figure slammed into his plane, crashing the wing in half. Slum, what the? Watching a figure break his wing, the pilot was aggressive. Wang Wu, what's the matter with you? A dozen pilots caught up behind watched the pilot's wing broken and hurriedly asked. I'm fine, but the wing was broken by someone. After that, Wang Wu planned to leave offline. Roar. At this moment, Destruction Day flew out of the pit, and flew in the direction that Chu Yang was thrown away. The monster has come out. Brothers, shoot missiles at him. I didn't know who shouted, and then dozens of missiles hit all the destruction. If it has not evolved, the day of destruction may still be repelled, but unfortunately, the day of destruction that has already evolved at this time is not afraid of these missiles at all. Seeing these annoying bugs have been disturbing myself, Destroyed Sun's eyesight broke out, and in just a moment, a dozen planes in the sky were completely overturned to the ground. Watching all the fighters around were destroyed, the laser eyes of Destruction Day swept towards himself, and Wang Wu couldn't help feeling sad. He regretted. Of course, he did not regret coming to participate in this external battle. After all, the head of the army told them that before death, this time may be dead. He regrets that the parents will be a son if they leave. What should they do for the rest of their lives? To be loyal to the country today, worthy of my heart. Looking at the fiery red laser, he shot towards himself. Wang Wu slowly closed his eyes. Destroy Day, Lao Su fights with you today. The destroyed Day flew to Chuyang outside the Jushao clouds, and immediately swooped down, kicked it on the neck of the Destruction Day, and was hit hard by this. The Destruction Day went backwards a dozen steps. The laser in my eyes also deviated to other places. How is this possible? Seeing a human being able to repel the monster, Wang Wu, who had been waiting for death, was suddenly full of shock. Then he picked up the communicator, got out of the plane, and landed on the ground. Notify the headquarters and ask for support. Notify the headquarters and ask for support. I am only one member of the Goshawk 12th team. Please reply when you receive it. Please reply when you receive it. This thing doesn't work at critical moments. Seeing that the communicator didn't work, Wang Wu lost it, and then set his sights on the scene of Chu Yang's battle with Doom. I do and no. At first glance, when seeing the scene where the two were fighting, Wang Wu froze, and it took a long time before he responded. What a fairy fight. Drink. Chu Yang raised a punch and smashed it on the head of Destruction Day. But before the fist hit the Day of Destruction, he was pinched by the Day of Destruction. Hit the feathers. Seeing that his strenuous blow was so easily blocked by the Destruction Day, Chu Yang could not help but grumbled, then raised his knee and ran towards the Destruction Day. But before the knee reached the Day of Destruction, Chu Yang was beaten dozens of punches by the Day of Destruction, and once again hit and flew out, and the surrounding houses collapsed because of his reasons. That man seems to be crushed by monsters. Look at him like a human, but is there such a strong person on Earth? Putting a laser in his eyes seems a bit like a Superman in American movies. Observed after the war, Wang Wu quickly commented. Perhaps it was because his voice was a little louder, and Destruction Day suddenly ran into him. Wow, can you hear it so far? I'm afraid it's not a breeze. Wang Wu couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the Destruction Day rushing towards himself, and then he quickly avoided it. But he was still too slow, and was soon overtaken by Doom. Destined. Looking at the Day of Destruction nearby, Wang Wu said in despair. But not wanting to finish speaking, Chu Yang rushed over, and suddenly knocked down the Destruction Day. How are you staying here? I want to die. Don't get out of here. Seeing that there were still humans in the area where he fought with Doom, Chu Yang could not help but scold. I am a Washaw Air Force soldier. Just now the fighter was destroyed by a monster and fell helplessly. I heard Chu Yang scolding. Although Wang Wu was a little bit embarrassed, I thought it was as great as Superman, so I had to put up with it. That's the case. It's not surprising to see such a big thing on the Day of Destruction. It's not surprising that the country is shocked. I respect you as a soldier and leave now. This is not a battle you can join together. Upon hearing this, Chu Yang said immediately, and then walked towards the Day of Destruction. Hey, dude, I see that you have been hit by this weird. You still don't want to be tough with him. If you know something or something, use it to deal with him. Sometimes it hurts the soul more than the physical body. It can have an effect. Seeing that Chu Yang was going to destroy Sendai again, Wang Wu could not help reminding. Hurting the soul. After hearing Wu Wu's words, Chu Yang seemed to remember something, and a flash of light flashed in his eyes. He remembered the way he had learned, and Chu Yong rushed to the past with his tactics. Roar. On the day of destruction, Chu Yong rushed towards herself, and a sharp bone spur on her arm could not help but stab toward Chu Yong. Break the soul curse. After a loud drink, Chu Yong gathered his whole body's spiritual power on his right hand, and a heavy palm came towards the destruction sun. Roar. I felt my soul was disappearing quickly, and Destruction Day couldn't help yelling. It's done. I knew it was time to use Taoism to deal with you. Looking at the painful expression on Doom Day, Chu Yang's eyes flashed a moment of pleasure. On top of the mountain. Ding. The situation on Destruction Day is a bit unstable, and the soul is currently dying. Huh, what happened? Why is the soul of Destruction Day dying? Hearing the message from the system, Meng Fanshan asked a little puzzlingly. In principle, Destruction Day should be invincible in this world. The right hand. Ding. Images of doom and people fighting have been collected. Check them out. Check. I'd like to see where on earth this sacred can destroy the day of destruction and destroy the soul. Meng Fanshan said with a serious face. If there is such a person on the earth, then he will be revived in the future. The task can be difficult. As his voice fell, the image of Chu Yong fierce battle Destruction Day suddenly appeared in the void. Roar. Destroyed roar full of weakness, then fell to the ground. Finally defeated. It seems that in the future fighting, we can't just use brute force to think more. Chu Yong couldn't help feeling relieved when the day of destruction fell to the ground. Brother, is this monster dead? Wang Wu saw the destruction and fell to the ground, and couldn't help walking to Chu Yong and asking. Well, I think it should be dead, thanks to your reminder, otherwise I may have been fighting brute force with him. Thinking of this reminder from Wang Wu, Chu Yong hugged his fist and thanked. Brothers don't need to thank you. This monster is dead, so that's all good. Our mission is complete. Seeing Chu Yong, a godlike person, thanked himself, Wang Wu felt a little flattered. System, since the day of destruction is dead, then my mission can be considered complete, right? Chu Yong glanced at the day of destruction and couldn't help but meditate in his heart. Ding. Doomsday is not dead yet, he is in resurrection. What? Chu Yong said with a shocked expression on the face of the system. This Nima is too skinny. Sure enough, the system rewards are not so easy to get. Brother, what's the matter with you? Seeing Chu Yang's face suddenly change, Wang Wu asked curiously. You better run now. The farther you go, the better. Then, Chu Yong took a spirit stone and walked towards the corpse of Destruction Day. The fiery red laser in his eyes also shot on Destruction Day. No way, the monster is still alive. Seeing Chu Yong telling himself to retreat, as he walked towards the day of destruction, Wang Wu couldn't help guessing and then ran away quickly. Roar. Sure enough, Destroyer climbed up from the ground and crashed into Chu Yong. Chu Yong was hit by this, and he felt that the blood in the internal organs of the 5 internal organs was surging. Break the soul curse. After absorbing the spirit stone in his hand, Chu Yong hit the head of Destruction Sun again. But unfortunately, whenever Destruction Day is resurrected, it will be immune to the method of killing him last time. Chu Yong did so in vain. Is it useless? Seeing himself hitting the Sun of Destruction, the day of destruction was not the same as before, and Chu Yong could not help but say. Roar. At this moment, Dumashi yelled at Chu Yong, and then punched Chu Yong upside down. Chu Yang's body crashed into layers of buildings to resist this force. When she was about to fight back, the Destruction Day moved at a very fast speed, and she used her absolute advantage to grab Chu Yang's strong fall. Smashing, and finally using all his strength, threw Chu Yong towards the high-rise buildings in front. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yong did not know how many high-rise buildings were destroyed. Fortunately, the public had already retreated under the announcement of the radio. The floor was empty now, otherwise how many people would die? On the top of the mountain. Watching the destruction of the day in the video, Meng Fanshan's mood was very complicated, and he then asked the system, "This is a strange gift package for novices, and it's because I spent 20 years of my life. You won't tell me, is he dead like this?" Quote. Ding. Day of destruction is not dead, it is now resurrected and is fighting that person. That's good. But when it comes to this person, don't you tell me that there is no extraordinary power in this world. Where does his power come from? Seeing the mention of Chu Yong by the system, Meng Fanshan curiously asked. Ding. Search for information. Name, Chuyang. Race, people. There are only a few experiences, it seems ordinary, but someone who can fight back and forth with Doom Day, I don't think he is ordinary. After reading the information collected by the system, Meng Fanshan said something uncomfortable. Ding. The system is searching deeply. The search is done to remind me that since the Day of Destruction is not dead, it must be easy to kill such a person as the Day of Destruction has evolved. I will continue to improve my strength first. Seeing the system searching in depth, Meng Fanshan said, then he closed his eyes. In Tiannan. I'm afraid I can't win this time. After smashing an unknown number of buildings, Chuyang finally stopped and looked at the Day of Destruction a few kilometers away, full of panting. After looking at the sun and restoring the energy in his body, Chuyang rushed towards the Destruction Day again. Roar. Looking at Chuyang, who rushed towards himself at a rapid speed, Destruction Day could not help roaring, then raised his fist and punched Chuyang's chest. Oh! Chuyang immediately spit out blood, and then flew out like a kite. It was broken, how can you fight it? After flying hundreds of meters, Chuyang wiped the red blood on the corner of his mouth, a little helplessly. He has the greatest strength in his body, and can easily fly a high-speed train, but he still can't compete with the Destruction Day, even if he can't keep up, his speed can't keep up with the Destruction Day. Beware, it's a feather. Wanting to help the system, but thinking of the urine of the system, Chuyang gave up. Roar. Destruction Day rushed over again, raised his fist, and struck Chuyang. Although Chuyang was not as fast as Destruction Day, his predictive power was still okay. When his fist was about to hit himself, he flashed. In the past, turning around as a maneuver kick, kicking the Day of Destruction to the sky. Then, he rushed up and sent Doom into space. What's that? The man on the military plane looked at a figure holding something and flew out of the atmosphere, wondering. Head, that monster has left Tiannan City, now it has disappeared and disappeared. At this time, the technician came to say. What? Disappeared? We broke so many people. Hearing the technical staff, the chief could not help but yell, but even though the words were so clear, the discerning people could see that he was relieved. After a few seconds, the head stabilized his mind. Since the monster has disappeared, send someone to look for the body of the sacrificed warrior. They are national heroes and must be buried in the cemetery of the martyrs. In space, Chuyang once again locked Doom Day's neck and tried to break his neck. But unfortunately, if the Day of Destruction has not yet evolved, Chuyang might win by twisting his neck. Is it now? It is no longer possible. After all, the power of Chuyang and Destruction Day is no longer a level. Chuyang exerted his whole body strength, no matter it was Superman's power or spiritual power, all of them broke out in a blink of an eye. Roar. Feeling the pain from his neck, Destruction Day roared again, and then began to struggle. If you want to kill him, you must find a way to prevent him from using power and moving. It will be only 2 seconds and everything is over. Looking at the Destruction Day, he moved his head back a little. Chuyang could not help but secretly in my heart. Just what method should be used? Formation method. It seems that there is a large array of immortals in the formation method book that Uncle Kian gave me, which can make the enemy unable to move. Recalling the formation method books that I have read, Chuyang's eyes could not help but brighten. The success or failure is here. After glancing at the Day of Destruction of the skull, Chuyang kicked it quickly and kicked it towards the moon, then flew back towards the earth. On the Day of Destruction, Chuyang flew back to the earth, and took a moment to get rid of gravity, stabilize her body, and chase back. Tiannan City. Wait a minute, Destruction Day should land here, I hope he can be taken this time. After looking at the sky, Chuyang muttered to himself. Then fire-red laser shot in the eyes carved a rune on the ground. Every time a rune was carved, Chuyang filled it with spirit stones. Monster, die, Bew, 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 Bew. The 45th Chuyang was engraved and was suddenly hit by a dozen submachine guns. Although it doesn't hurt at all, this kind of feeling of being disturbed is still quite annoying. Nowadays, Chuyang can't help but look back at the person who shot at him. Seeing the other person's military uniform, it was a female soldier, and Chuyang's intention to kill had disappeared without a trace. It turned out to be a female soldier. You can shoot me with a gun, let's go. I do ain't have time to you play games here. Quote, Speaking, after melting his submachine gun with thermal vision, he continued to engrave the rune. Seeing that the other party was not only afraid of bullets, but also easily destroyed the equipment in his hand, the female soldier was obviously frightened. For the first time in the Chinese New Year, I saw this monster. Hey, Miss Yang, where are you? We are here to find the body of a soldier. Don't run around. A voice came from not far away. I'm here, the woman soldier called when he saw the troops coming. As soon as the words fell, a heavily armed soldier ran over. Wang Wu, that monster is there. You shoot fast and take revenge on the dead teammates. Seeing Wang Wu coming, the female soldier quickly pointed at Chuyang Road. Monster. Looking at his fingers, Wang Wu immediately saw the familiar figure. Hey, brother, how are you here, that monster? Killed by you or? You are the Air Force. I didn't kill the monster, but I just sent him to outer space. I should be back in a while. Hearing a familiar voice behind him, Chu Yang glanced back at Wang Wu. What? Hearing Chu Yang's words, Wang Wu and the female soldier were suddenly surprised. Nothing more. How many people are still in your army? Go and tell your chief, wait for the day of destruction to come, let him drag me on to the day of destruction. By the way, the day of destruction is that monster. Said after that, Chu Yang continued to inscribe. Miss Yang, bring the communicator. I want to tell the chief, let him send a fighter to delay the monster. Wang Wu, this guy is not human at first sight, let's be more careful. Seeing Wang Wu asking her for a communication device, the female soldier called Miss Yang couldn't help worrying about authenticity. It's okay. This brother is human. When I was almost killed by a monster just now, he saved me. That's it. The communication instrument is for you. Seeing Wang Wu say so, the female soldier is not good to say anything anymore, and quickly passed the communication instrument to Wang Wu. Hey, chief, the monster is coming back. Can you send all the troops to hold him? Wang Wu took the communicator, adjusted it a few times, and then passed the channel to the communicator. Coming soon. What do you mean? The chief said a little puzzled. The monster just disappeared because it was hit into space by a friend of mine, but now he is coming back. My friend is trying to deal with him, but needs the help of the army. Wang Wu conveyed the words of Chu Yang to the chief. Okay, if your friend really has a way to pack this monster, we can delay the monster with all our strength and make some time for him. The chief hangs up while talking. On military aircraft, the chief looked at the non-commissioned officers in front of him, and said solemnly, hurry up and send me all the troops to the place where the communicator comes. All the planes in stock will be used for me. This battle is my Washa, the crucial battle. Quote. Yes, the non-commissioned officers heard and responded quickly, then trot away and left. Well, I hope this battle is victorious. As the non-commissioned officers left, the chief sighed and sighed. This time he had broken too many people. He didn't know how to explain to the soldiers' parents after the war. Brother, I have already spoken to the chief, and he said that he is willing to do his utmost to help you delay the destruction day. Wang Wu looked at Chu Yang with an expression of joy. That's good. Since it's already called, then you should avoid it first. He's here. Hearing Wang Wu's words, Chu Yang nodded, then watched the destruction at a height of 200 meters above the ground soaring into the sky. The female soldier was stunned. I did not expect that this monster could not only shoot the laser, but King Kong was not bad, but it could fly. Miss Yang, don't stand stupid, thank you for leaving. Otherwise, their battle will affect you and me. Then, Wang Wu pulled up the female soldier and left. Roar. Destruction Day looked at Chu Yang flying to him, roared immediately, and then smashed a punch. Chu Yang didn't evade, but he took the punch, and then his whole body gathered on his right hand and struck the head of the Son of Destruction. Suddenly, the Son of the Destruction was distorted. Roar. After roaring, Destruction Day turned his head back, then grabbed Chu Yang, punched one punch after another. Oh, Chu Yang repeatedly suffered several punches, and the injury of the previous hard punch, Chu Yang immediately spit out blood. Watching Destruction Day want to cast a bone spur toward his chest, Chu Yang could not help but grab the bone spur. Hearing the sound of the missile flying, Chu Yang quickly looked towards the source of the sound, and saw more than 30 planes launching missiles towards themselves and the location of the Destruction Day. Now they could not help but break away from the Destruction Day and kick it towards the missile. After giving a gesture of gratitude to the pilot who was driving the fighter, he quickly returned to the ground and began to engrave the runes. All 30 missiles were bombed on the destruction day. Although the power of the explosion was great, it was still difficult to shake the destruction day. Roar! Seeing these tiny ants annoying themselves again, the day of destruction was extremely angry, and he quickly punched one of the fighters. Due to the absolute speed advantage, the pilot did not evade the past, so he sacrificed fiercely. Brothers, let us delay time as much as possible, everyone be careful. An Air Force soldier notified with a communicator and fired a round of bombs towards the day of destruction. The rest of the soldiers saw this and began to fire on the day of destruction. 978, 979. Chu Yong meditated silently, while engraving runes with hot vision. At the same time, every time he carved one, he filled it with spirit stones. Although the Air Force has gained a lot of skill in aircraft training under long-term training, it is still vulnerable to monsters such as Destruction Day, and is quickly destroyed by the regiment. More than 30 people are seriously injured. Roar! Looking at Chu Yong, who was lined up below, Destroyed Sun suddenly swooped down, and a long bone spur grew in his hand, planning to kill him. Feeling that Destruction Day was killing himself, Chu Yong instinctively wanted to avoid it, but looking at the last rune, he could outline it with just a few strokes, and some plan to carry this blow hard and outline the idea of rune. Brother, let's get out of the way. Wang Wu in the distance watched Doomday kill Chu Yong and called out quickly. After cursing, Wang Wu ran to Chu Yong quickly, holding his submachine gun and firing into the sky. Stupid monster, come to fight Lao Su. After shooting a few shots, seeing the destruction of the Japanese ignored him at all, Wang Wu could not help scolding. Wang Wu, don't go there, he will kill you. The female soldier watched as Wang Wu got closer and closer to Chu Yong and the day of destruction, and quickly called out. I want to get time for this brother. He can defeat this monster. If this monster is not dealt with today, more people will die in his hands in the future. After saying such a sentence, Wang Sedwu took an assault rifle from his body, holding 2 assaults, like an invincible Ares, and fired towards the day of destruction. But the day of destruction still ignored him, and all he did was futile. Well, does this monster have wisdom? It wasn't attracted to me. Seeing destruction did not bother himself, but instead headed for Chu Yong. It's about to be stabbed, what to do? Watching the monster's bone spurs still 10 meters away from Chu Yong, Wang Wu couldn't help but nervously said. Later, I didn't know what decision he made. The tension on his face disappeared instantly, and he changed to a decisive color. Before he could think about it, he ran towards Chu Yong and stabbed Chu Soon. In the sun, he stopped the blow. All right. After filling the rune ditch in the rune ditch, Chu Yong immediately expressed his satisfaction. However, at this time, a scream came from behind. Ah, ah! Hearing the huge screams coming from behind, Chu Yong could not help but turn around, and immediately saw the huge bone spurs on Destruction Day piercing Wang Wu's body and killing himself. It's too late to think. Chu Yong cut off the bone spurs of the Destruction Day with hot vision and knocked them back with a punch. You are. Looking at Wang Wu, who was penetrated by a huge bone spur through his chest, Chu Yong felt a little heavy and authentic. Brother, be sure to defeat this monster. Don't let him hurt anyone anymore, promise me. Wang Wu grabbed Chu Yong's hand and dying authentically. Chu Yong didn't speak, but just nodded gently, and after setting Wang Wu aside, he started the matrix formation. For a time, the golden array was full of gold. Roar! He shook his head and looked at the golden light of the sky. Ruin Day immediately punched him towards Chu Zhongli. Looking at the mindless thing on Destruction Day, Chu Yong was again afraid of himself. Chu Yong was not afraid. After calculating with super intelligence, when Destruction Day was about to hit himself, he predicted the past. Seeing that his fist was missing, the day of destruction was a bit embarrassing. Looking at Chu Yong, who was dodging the past, when he wanted to take another shot, Chu Yong was kicked into the field full of runes and filled the field of spirits. Tian Lingling, Earth Spirit, Tai Shang Laojun is anxious like a decree, hey. As the dictation was read out, the Destruction Day suddenly moved very hard. Roar! Feeling like I was suppressed by Haoran's law, Destruction Day could not help but roar out. Goodbye. Looking at the suppressed Doom Day, Chu Yong could not help but meditate, and then the whole body gave him a punch and struck the head of Doomday. The Doomday was hit by this, and his head was beaten immediately rotated 360 degrees. And just at this moment, the big collapse. When the consciousness of Doomsun was gone, I put my whole body power on the bone spurs on my hands and stabbed towards Chuyang. Seeing that this day of destruction was killed by himself, there was still this trick. Chu Yang's eyes flashed to horror suddenly, and he wanted to avoid it, but it was not too late. Don't know if the system will revive me. Seeing that the sharp bone spurs had touched his own skin, Chu Yang could not help but meditate. However, just as the bone spurs were about to pierce Chu Yang's skin, the jade pendant hanging from Chu Yang's neck suddenly emitted a green light, destroying the terrorist power on the Japanese bone spurs for a while, disappeared without a trace. Author. Green is the world's most terrifying force, unstoppable. Although the bone spur was finally pierced on Chu Yang, it only broke a layer of skin. I'm okay. Looking at the bone spurs just pierced his skin, Chu Yang could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Looking at the 360-degree destruction day where the skull was beaten by himself, the hot vision in Chu Yang's eyes burst out and burned it into a pile of ashes. At the same time, the system's prompt sounded in Chu Yang's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing Doomday. Killing rewards: 2/10 of the normal Superman ability, Superman uniforms, Superman glasses, 1 million origin points, have been sent to the system space, please check. However, Chu Yang ignored it, instead walking towards Wang Wu. At this time, Wang Wu had completely lost his breath and had no grief or joy on his face. System, can you resurrect this soldier? Chu Yang said calmly. Ding! Life and death are life, this is the way of heaven and earth. He helped you to stop the blow, allowing you to successfully kill the destruction day, indirectly saving the lives of many people. Life will be good in the next life, sometimes death and not the end. Quote. After hearing the words systematically, Chu Yang said nothing. After pulling out the bone spurs from Wang Wu's body, he hugged him and walked to the female soldier called Miss Yang not far away. Where is your chief? Looking at the female soldier in front of her, Chu Yang asked. Sir, on a military plane. The female soldier pointed over the northeast. After hearing that, Chu Yang quickly used supervision to look at it, and indeed he found a very large military aircraft in the distance. Now he couldn't help holding Wang Wu in one hand, grabbing the female soldier in one hand, and flying towards the military plane. On the top of the mountain. Ding! Day of Doom has been killed. What? Wen Yan said. Meng Fanshan suddenly woke up from his practice. System, in terms of strength, there should be no one to be defeated after the evolutionary day of destruction, and that once died before the destruction day, and then resurrected, it is immune to soul damage. If Chu Yang did not kill from the soul, how would he kill him? Meng Fanshan was full of doubts. Ding! The strength is not enough, the formation method comes together. Chu Yang's formation prevented the destruction day from moving, and eventually killed it with the classic death method of destruction day. In short, the combat video system has been intercepted, and the host can view it at any time. Quote. The classic method of death turned around. Interesting. Nothing. Since Doomday is dead, then die. Didn't I just let you check Chu Yang's experience just now? Did you find it? Hearing systematic explanation, Meng Fanshan then he continued to ask the system about Chu Yang. After all, he had taken precautions against Chu Yang. Naturally, he planned to learn more about Chu Yang so that he could know himself and know one another. Ding! Nothing found. The system prompts. Nothing found. Aren't you a system? How did you find nothing? Wen Yan said. Meng Fanshan could not help looking ugly. Ding! The system is not omniscient. Please do not raise the system too much, and this system is a mythical resuscitation system, not the strongest face fighting system, the Pharaoh system, or the shuttle system. Quote. Perceiving Meng Brahma's emotions, the system could not help explain. No more. Check how many more shock points I have. I will resurrect a cow to get shock points. Seeing the system say this, Meng Fanshan is not good to say anything. Ding! The host still has 4.5 million shocks. 4.5 million points. It looks like I saw a bull in the resurrection mall, or he will be resurrected. Thinking of that legend, Meng Fanshan couldn't help calmly. Military aircraft. Head, it's not good. The radar scanned an unknown target crashing towards us at a very fast speed. a technician said to the head after a ceremony. Is that the monster? The chief said with some nervousness. No, the technician thought for a while. Although the unknown target was moving too fast, it was obviously not a monster. After all, it was not in shape. That is Chief Yang, please open the door. At this moment, the communication instrument rang aside. Hello, I'm Yang Jinghua. I don't know who you are. How are the soldiers Yang Yang and Wang Wu? The monster is dead, and Wang Wu is also dead. This time I am here to send his body. By the way, to send the female soldier home. Hearing the message on the phone, the director's mood suddenly seemed complicated. Turned his head and said to the person beside him, open the door. Then the door opened, and at that moment, Chu Yang came in, laid down the female soldier, and quickly came to the head. You should be the young man who destroyed the monster. I don't think there are strange people like you in the world. The chief looked at Chu Yang and praised that the monster can be eliminated this time thanks to Chu Yang. Too many soldiers have been sacrificed. Without them, I can't kill and destroy the day. I hope you can treat their parents favorably. Then, as if thinking of something, Chu Yang changed a lot of money and put it on the ground. The money must be transferred to their parents, especially to his parents. Chu Yang pointed at Wang Wu and said, we will follow suit, the country will not let the soldiers die in vain. The chief nodded his head. I hope you can do it. I don't want to be the enemy of Huasha. Their family should be taken care of. Then, looking at his ragged clothes, Chu Yang turned away and left. Sir, can you serve the country? The military is willing to grant the general. Seeing Chu Yang leaving, the chief could not help but say, but before he finished speaking, Chu Yang disappeared without a trace. After flying for more than 10 seconds, Chu Yang returned to the villa. At this time, the girls were cleaning the glass damaged by the battle. Yang brother, Yang Jun, brother-in-law, what's wrong with you? The girls saw Chu Yang in a ragged suit descending from the clouds, and all came around. Fighting with a strong enemy, so it became what it is now, but it's okay, and won. Seeing the puzzling look of the girls, Chu Yang explained. Ah, fight with people, have you been injured? After hearing Chu Yang's words, the girls suddenly became worried. Injuries are commonplace, but I'm physically strong, and looking at the sun is okay. Chu Yang said with a smile, looking at the worry on the girls' faces. Are you cleaning the glass fragments now? Looking at the broom being held by the girls, Chu Yang quickly said. Well, I don't know why the glass broke. In order not to hurt the glass, we can only clean it up. Ren Tingting answered with a smile. Wait for me to change my clothes. After changing, come and clean with you. After speaking softly, Chu Yang went upstairs and changed his clothes. About 10 seconds later, a newly dressed Chu Yang appeared in front of the girls. You guy is pretty handsome. Looking at Chu Yang's handsome face and tall figure, Gao Chengxia couldn't help but praise. Yeah, brother-in-law, you look pretty like this. Ren Zuzu embraced Chu Yang's arm and praised him, but he also praised, but he did not forget to provocatively provoke Sha Chengxia. Gao Chengxia also looked a little angry, but she was more proud, but she didn't hold Chu Yang's arms too coquettishly. Chu Yang naturally saw that these two girls were not convinced by anyone, and now they could not help but think of a meal. Annie, Satsuki, sister-in-law, Shizuka, you are in charge of the east. Rika, Miyamoto, Jingjing, Ting, you are in the west. Saya, Zuzu and I are in charge of the house. Alice is in charge of playing. Start. Good task. Chu Yang took Ren Zuzu and Gao Chengxia to the hall. Brother-in-law, where do we start cleaning? Upstairs, or downstairs? Ren Zuzu held the broom, looked around, and asked Chu Yang. Upstairs or downstairs? Gao Chengya pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and asked the same. Chu Yang didn't say anything, grabbed the two broomsticks, but cleaned the whole villa in 1 minute. So fast. Ren Zuzu and Gao Chengxia both exclaimed, watching Chu Yang clean up the villa just 1 minute later. However, I knew that Chu Yang wasn't the two daughters of the mortal, but only after shocking for a while, she recovered her expression and looked at the girls who were cleaned from the east and the west. Then go out and help sister-in-law learn them. Quote. Well, brother-in-law, let's go out and help their cousins. Ren Zuzu also said. No hurry, I'm going to do something big today. I'll help you when I'm done. Chu Yong laughed evilly when he saw the two going out to help the girls. Run. Seeing Chu Yong's smile, Gao Chengsha immediately knew what Chu Yong's idea of hitting the ground was, and he immediately fled Ren Zuzu and fled. However, their speed was slow in Chu Yong's eyes, just like a snail. Before they took the first step, they were caught by Chu Yong. They hugged them and threw them into the nearest room. Soon, a voice came from the room. Papa, the two of you will have to live in harmony in the future, don't allow each other to face each other, here no. Ah, I see. Brother-in-law, forgive me. Papa and Saya, don't go against Zuzu in the future, the harem is the first piece. Ah, it's the girl who provoked me every time, why did you give me a few more? Because I'm excited, I don't want to bite me. Smelly wolf, I'm biting you. You stinky girl, why are you biting your brother-in-law? You can't bite there. Outside the villa, Saya, they are pampered by Yang Jun again, it is really envious. Namli Shang said with emotion, since she was strong in Chuyang that night, she felt the greatness of Chuyang. Now whenever I think of that night, my heart will be very excited. Let's go to Yangjun's room collectively tonight. Du Dao Daozi looked at the girls with a flushed expression. Okay. Jushuan Jingxiang licked her lips and said she missed the days she had done with Chuyang. Although Miyamoto did not speak, anyone could see the desire in her eyes. Since the last dedication, she has been infatuated with Chuyang. The four daughters Ren Tingting, Jingjing, Xiaoyu, and Annie all hesitated. After all, when they thought of a lot of people being honest, they were really ashamed to death. Don't hesitate, everyone will be family in the future, what are you afraid of? Seeing the four women hesitated, Nam Lixiang said kindly. Well, let's go to Yang Ji's room tonight. The four girls nodded with flushed faces. Sister Lixiang, are you going to play in your brother's room tonight? Alice wants to go too. Little Rory saw all the girls talking about going to Chuyang's room, and immediately held her puppy and looked cute. To say, Alice, my sisters go to the brother's room to do things, you don't go there, obediently watch TV in the lobby, okay, my sister will adjust your favorite anime. Nam Lixiang couldn't help squatting down, pinching Alice's little face, and said softly. Alice doesn't want to watch anime, Alice wants to go to my brother's room to play. Alice said pitifully, hugging her puppy. Hearing that, Nam Lixiang didn't know what to say, and hurriedly looked at the Poisonous Island sister-in-law. Alice, if you don't go to your brother's room tonight, my sister will buy you a kitten. The Poisonous Island sister-in-law touched Alice's head, and said with a gentle look. That Alice won't go tonight. Go back tomorrow, Alice said a little excitedly at the words of the Poisonous Island sister-in-law. Seeing this, Nan Lixiang and others quickly gave a thumbs up to the Poisonous Island sister-in-law. Night. Chu Yong sat cross-legged on the bed. After conditioning his body and driving out some impurities, he planned to receive a reward. Oh, just then, the bedroom door was kicked open. Who, how brave, dare to kick my door? Chu Yong could not help hearing the sound of the door being kicked open, and then looked back, without seeing it, bleeding at the first sight. Looking at a row of naked beauties in front of her eyes, Chu Yong calmly said, "You are forcing me to sin." Then he wiped his nosebleeds and hugged them one by one. 30,000 words are omitted below. This night, the villa was full of intriguing sounds. Fortunately, they brought headphones to Alice and the puppy when they came up, otherwise they must teach bad children and leave a deep impression. One night, the eighth daughter, fortunately, she has a superpower, otherwise she must die. Chu Yong said with satisfaction as she looked at the sleeping girls on the two large beds. After burning torn clothes and trousers with hot eyesight, I went to the closet and took some new ones. After spending some time dressing up, I went downstairs. Where is this little girl, Alice? Looking at the pair of headphones on the sofa, Chu Yong suddenly felt a little worried and authentic, and then searched the room with see-through eyes, and saw that she was being embraced by Gao Cheng Saya. I don't worry much anymore. After walking outside the villa and stretching, Chu Yong planned to collect the reward. But don't want this time, the puppy carried by Alice yelled at Chu Yong, Wong. Wong, Wong. System, what is this dog talking about? Chu Yong was puzzled when he saw the dog barking at himself. Ding, this dog asks you if you can teach her cultivation, she will be a good dog to take care of Alice. This dog is a bit interesting. If you want to cultivate, then you will pass this method to her. Then Chuyang passed the Longhu Mountain Taoist true scripture in her mind to the system, and let the system to the dog. Ding. The practice given by the host is only suitable for human practice, not animal practice. There are many demon practices in the source mall. Do not buy it. Choose one around 10,000 sources. After thinking about it, Chuyang said. Ding. The purchase was successful. It has been delivered to the dog. Take this spiritual stone to find a place to practice. I hope you will really protect Alice, or I will kill you. After handing a spiritual stone to the dog, Chuyang could not help but threaten the tunnel. Wong. Although the dog did not understand, but felt the killing sentiment from Chuyang, his eyes filled with tears. Seeing that the dog was scared and tearful by himself, Chuyang stood up and seemed to think about what Nan Lixiang could not cultivate. He quickly asked the system. System, Nan Lixiang doesn't know what the reason is, you can solve it. Is this the case? If you can, let me help solve it. Quote. Ding. This system can solve Nan Lixiang's problem, but it needs the host to collect some materials and pay 100,000 original points. What materials do I need to buy directly from the source mall? Is it necessary to use such trouble? Chuyang frowned suddenly when he heard the system. Ding. There is no such thing in the source mall, so the host can only collect it by himself. No, it stands to reason that the system should not have everything. Ding. There are really no such things in Benyuan Mall. After all, the system can't let people in countless worlds put things on the platform to sell. Okay, if you really don't have it, then you can send in the required materials. After hearing the words, Chuyang had to confess his fate. Ding. The system requires the Bone Spirit Cold Fire, from Dupai World the 8-petal Echidna, from Dora World the Holy Spirit Pearl, from the World of Legendary Knights, and a drop of Phoenix Blood. Just get it. Quote. System. It just solves a small problem in cultivation. Is it necessary to use these things? Looking at the list of materials listed in the system, Chuyang's face was a bit ugly. Where can I find myself? Ding. The system is not only intended to solve the cultivation problem for Nan Lixiang, but also to create a peerless talent for it, so these materials are needed. Of course, if the host finds it troublesome, there is no need to collect it, and strive to increase its strength to the Golden Superman. At that time, you can turn them into immortal and powerful existence. I felt some emotional changes in Chuyang, and the system could not help answering. Become a Golden Superman, then I'll look for these materials. Chuyang smiled bitterly when he heard the words. Nima and others became Golden Super. Daylily is cold. After all, Golden Superman is the strongest form of Superman, but how easy to become. Although many people say that he is inferior to the thinking form, from the perspective of Chuyang, the Golden Superman is strong, not weak, and even better than the Superman. The only difference between him and the thinking Superman is his record. A record, but the thinking Superman can be equal to the mandrake who devours all stories. Mandalak even judges the thinking man to be the second highest. Looking at the list of materials again, Chuyang remembered them all. Then he said, System, receive 2/10 of the normal superhuman ability. Ding. Power has been injected into the host. With the prompt of the system, Chuyang felt that his eyes had changed. Now he seems to be able to see outer space at a glance. Turn on super hearing. Countless sounds come into your ears, Chinese, English, dog barking. System, check the properties panel. It seemed that he wanted to see how much his strength had reached, Chuyang said. Ding. The properties panel is as follows. Host, Chuyang. Age, 21. Race, people. Realm, pseudo 4 dimensions boundary of Taoist realm. Taoist realm, Jin Dan's success. Daoshin, cut off the injustice, kill the offender. Abilities, 9-layer normal Superman ability, rich. Maoshan Charm Encyclopedia, Xuanri True Scriptures, Dragon and Tiger Mountain Taoist True Scriptures, Dafa Slaying Techniques, Shendashu, Maoshan Formations, Fuji Sword Sutra. Skills, Super Power, Super Perspective, Super Speed, Super Vision, Steel Body, Super Hearing, Thermal Vision, Super Flying, Super Breath, Crying Breath, Super Brain, Super Self-Healing, Energy Absorption Medium, Super Smell, Super Stamina, Super Abdominal Language, Sky Sweeping. Item, A piece of broken defense jade. Superman uniform made by the star's top technology, extremely strong defense, with automatic repair function. If it is worn due to battle, it will automatically restore in a short time. Superman glasses bug artifact, made by the star's top technology. You can disguise your identity when wearing, no one can see under 5 dimensions. Origin: 992,900. Evaluation: almost a hero. Quote: what about super intelligence, super memory, and super responsiveness? Chu Yong said, glancing at his skill zone. Ding. It has been planned for the host's newly acquired skills super brain. After all, memory, intelligence, and responsiveness belong to the brain, but the super brain contains more than that. What else does that super brain contain? Chu Yong was curious. Ding. The super brain also contains hypnosis. The fastest mental arithmetic ability is known, induction. Abnormal. With so many superpowers, it is indeed the most perfect superhero of Maiman. After listening to the introduction of the system, Chu Yong was shocked and authentic. Ding. The host doesn't have to be too shocked. It's just a routine operation, and you haven't got the power of the Silver Age. When you come into contact with the power of the Silver Superman, you will know how perverted. By the way, please remind the host that your energy absorption has risen to intermediate level. Your current energy source is not only yellow stars, but now you can absorb blue star energy. Quote. After that, the system sank. Looking at the rising sun, Chu Yong took out the Superman uniform from the system space. After quickly putting it on, he flew out. He wanted to see if he could fly around the Earth in a few minutes. In the next few days, Chu Yong was either practicing or doing shame with the girls every day. It was a pleasure to live a good life. On this day, Chu Yong put down Miyamoto, who had no wisps in her arms, and placed them on the balcony, enjoying the breeze blowing slowly in the distance. System: They played enough. I am almost out of trouble. Please pick the world for me. Doro, Du, Xianjian Qi Sha Chuan randomly came. Since I promised to solve the problem that the woman can't practice, then I have to say it. After stretching a bit, Chu Yong said. Ding. After the automatic selection, the Fairy Swordsman biography world is currently selected. Will the host go to Xianjian Qi Sha biography of the world? Interesting, but I want to ask, is it 3 or 1? Wen Yan, Chu Yong could not help but asked, one thing is okay to say, the big villain, one of his ears to death, if 3 I guess. I guess it is enough. Ding. It's up to the host to explore. Do you want to go? Explore it again and serve it. What is the ratio of this time to the real world? Chu Yong sighed and asked. Ding. The time ratio between the real world of the fairy sword and the real world is 10:1. 10 days of the fairy sword world is equivalent to 1 day in the real world. May I ask if? I won't go for the time being. I'll talk to them first. After listening to the system, Chu Yong thought about it and said. Downstairs, the girls are watching the news. Watching them look attentively, Chu Yong could not help coming to them, tossing around with a bank card. Beauties, your dear husband is about to go to the world. I do'n't remember to look after the family during this time. Carrie has injected 500 billion yuan, save some flowers. Brother Yang, brother-in-law, pervert, Yang Jun, don't block the TV. Experts are interpreting the tomb of Qin Shi. Seeing that the TV was blocked by Chu Yong, the girls immediately urged them to leave. Understanding Qin Shi mausoleum. After hearing that, Chu Yong turned around and looked at the news. On TV, the mausoleum of the first emperor Qin Shi is the emperor's mausoleum of the first emperor of China. It is said that there are countless strange treasures in it. A bald man with white hair was reading it seriously. A bit interesting. After listening to the interpretation of the experts, Chu Yong recognized the authenticity. Finally, I have disclosed a shocking news. The country has agreed to the excavation of the Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Recently, top inspectors will go to the Emperor's mausoleum. At the end of the show, a white-haired expert announced an important message. For a moment, the audience at the scene froze for a moment, and then came back and cheered again. Brother-in-law, when you say they will dig up the live Qin Shi. Ren Zuzu said curiously. Qin Shi has been dead for a long time. How could it be possible to dig alive, and your brain is amused? Hearing Ren Zuzu's words, Gao Cheng Saya immediately said ironically. You're so amused. Seeing Gao Cheng Saya say this to her, Ren Zuzu suddenly ironed. Oh, don't be noisy, be careful, I'll let you two try Shuangfei again. Chu Yong said with a frown when she saw the two girls making noise again. With his words, the two girls stopped arguing. I'm going to other worlds. Take care of yourself during this time, remember to practice a lot, buy whatever you want, card here, password 176,851. Seeing the two women no longer making noise, Chu Yong left the bank card in on the coffee table, then left. Through the long space-time passage, Chu Yong came to a new world. Is this the world of legend of chivalrous swordsmanship? It's so richly aura. After feeling the quality of the aura, Chu Yong glared. Ding! Now release system mission. Certificate of Superman. Enter the DC movie universe. Superman steel body. Defeat Superman. Kill Zord. Reward. A layer of normal Superman ability. 1 million origins. Quote. Listening to the voice in his head, Chu Yong was instantly aggressive. System, can you kill me? Ding. What does the host mean? The system doesn't understand. The next time you have a mission, send it in advance, don't wait until I go to another world to send it again. Chu Yang's face was full of gloomy and authentic. Ding. The system understands. Does the host go to Superman's steel body? Oh, forget it, come to this world, just stay well. Besides, I'm looking for Holy Spirit Pearl. Chu Yong sighed. Seeing Chu Yong say this, the system suddenly sank. Don't sink the system, and provide me with a roadmap for this world. Ding. The roadmap has been sent to the host's mind, please check it. Is this the roadmap? After hearing the systematic prompt, Chu Yang's mind suddenly appeared a complete road map. Yuzhou City, Tangjiabao, Shushan, Well of Gods and Demons, Yong'an-Dang. It seems that this should be the three swords, right? If not for me to eat live, to eat durian. After a quick glance at the map, Chu Yong there is some speculation as to this fairy sword world. Of course, he is not sure if it is, after all, there are too many fairy sword series stories, and the backgrounds are all the same. It seems that in order to verify the guess, Chu Yong suddenly rose into the sky and flew towards the Yuzhou City marked on the map. Yuzhou City. It's Shanjian 3, but I don't know where the plot has developed. If Jingtian is not in Yong'an-Dang, then it should be on the road. Looking at Yong'an-Dang, he found that Jingtian was absent, and Chu Yong immediately thought. Let's just wait for them on the way that Jingtian and his party must pass. To get the Holy Spirit Pearl, we must go along with them before we can meet. Then, Chu Yong planned to leave. But don't want to just take a few steps, there is a person in a pink dress in the distance, through the heavy figure, moving towards himself at high speed. Help me, whoever comes to help me, Miss Ben will be rewarded. Tang Shui shouted with a look of horror. She was too unlucky. When she left the house and wanted to buy some rouge gouache, she did not expect that she had been pulled all the way by a weird force before she went to the gouache store. In the meantime, despite her desperate effort to break free, she had no choice but to hurt a lot of people and ruin the business of many people. Chu Yong watched the person coming, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The body flickered like a ghost, and in a blink of an eye, it crossed the heavy figure and came to Tang Shuijian's side, ignoring Tang Shuijian's huge suction, and a princess hugged it easily. Seeing that he thought he was going to be taken away by this weird suction, Tang Shui couldn't help closing his eyes, but didn't want to. Just the moment he closed his eyes, he stopped. At the moment, I was a little curious about how I stopped. I opened my eyes and suddenly a beautiful and handsome face entered her eyelid. This guy is handsome. This is what Tang Shuijian thought when he saw Chu Yong's face. Looking at it, he gradually became fascinated. Are you okay? Chu Yong watched Tang Shui see a blurry look, could not help but look like a warm man, said kindly to Tang Shuijian. The delicate voice broke into Tang Shuijian's atrium. Hearing this gentle and delicate voice, Tang Shui suddenly recovered, with a flushed face and an embarrassed look at Chu Yong said, "Thank you for saving me, I'm fine now." After hearing Shui say this, Chu Yong put it down, then turned around and left. Of course, Chu Yong did not do this because he had changed his mind, but because he couldn't keep his affection since ancient times. The only way is to win people's hearts. His heroes save the beauty, but don't ask for reward. To repay yourself. As expected, seeing the life-saving benefactor Tang Shui turned and left like this, and now he wanted to keep it. No, when I was about to speak, there was a young man dressed in sackcloth in the distance, and looking at the target, it seemed to be himself, and he couldn't help yelling, "Ah! Beauty is getting out of the way, don't block the way. Otherwise, it hurts by mistake, it's not good." Sedum looked at the woman blocking the road in front and shouted. But seeing that the woman was still unmoved, she just stood there shouting, and Jing Tian's sad face flashed helplessly, especially when she thought of the high compensation afterwards. The whole heart broke instantly, and a look of despair appeared on his face. However, when it was said that it was time, just when Sedum was about to hit Tang Shui, a figure stood in front of him. Jing Tian looked at Chu Yang, who was only a few meters away from her, and couldn't help flashing a shock in his eyes. "Brother, even if you want to stop this shameful act, how many people will come? You have to know that there was a buddy who had stopped me before, but as a result, he was hit by a fly. Now I had to yell, 'Go away.' In the end, the guy didn't leave. The thought of having to pay for the medical expenses of 2 people, Jing Tian suddenly closed his eyes in despair. Chu Yang looked at him like this, could not help but a little funny. A wave of his arm, a majestic spirit came out of the palm of his hand, and resolved the huge suction on Sedum's body, and then regardless of Sedum's, then turned to leave. Benefactor, wait. Seeing Chu Yang rescued himself once again, Tang Shui couldn't help but rejoice, saw that he was leaving, and hurried to stay. Is there anything else? Chu Yang pretended to be cold. Benefactor, didn't I say that before? Whoever saved me will I repay him. So I want to repay you. Seeing Chu Yang's extraordinary and handsome looks, Tang Shui couldn't help but blushed. Repay me, Chu Yang said with a smile. Ha, Tang Shui nodded when he saw. I don't need anything to repay. It's just a matter of good intentions to save you. After speaking, don't wait for Tang Shui to speak, and then go out. Seeing that she was the Miss Tang family, she was a spoiled child since she was a child, but she could not bear others' refusal, but she was helpless, and she could not take him out of her life, so she had to focus on Sedum. At the moment, I stepped on Sedum and said angrily, "Hey! You stupid, who are you? How dare you attack Ms. Ben today?" Ms. Ben said that she must not give you a lesson. I wonder which lady you are. Sedum lifted her head and asked carefully. I don't even know it. Listen to me. I'm Tang Shui, the granddaughter of Tangjiabao Fortress. What? Tangjiabao? Jing Tian heard Tang Shui's self-reported door, and now he couldn't help but feel dumbfounded. Your own Yonggandang is a subsidiary of Tangjiabao. And now he offended Tang Shuijian again, wouldn't he? The young lady spares her life. The villain will offend the young lady only when she loses her madness for a moment, and please forgive me. You thought you ran into me, and it's over. That's too cheap for you. Miss Ben has to fix you today. The young lady spares her life. Jing Tian heard Miss Tang say this, and suddenly she cried without tears. Chu Yang originally thought that Tang Shui chased himself when he saw him, and let himself accept the reward, but did not want to get caught up in Sedum. Knowing that the routine could not stop, Tang Shui could not help but turned around and said, "Look at Sedum on my face." Quote, "Okay, since you are benefactors, please, I will go around him." Tang Shui did not expect that the benefactor would return for Sedum. Without hesitation at the moment, he promised Chu Yang to let Sedum down. When Jing Tian saw Tang Shui not blame him, he suddenly showed a smirk expression, and said to Chu Yang, holding his fist, "Thank you brother for saving for justice, so great, I will report to Yangquan tomorrow." Yangquan Shangbao, this is what you said. Seeing Jing Tian saying this, Chu Yang said with amusement. That's natural, I think Sedum is also a character. When I say Yangquan Shangbao, naturally I will. Jing Tian patted Chu Yang's shoulder and said sincerely. After a few words of exchange, Chu Yang left. Looking at Jing Tian's departure, Chu Yang's eyes flashed a bit of light. After pinching the jade in his hand, he wanted to turn away. After all, the routine still has to continue. Looking at Chu Yang leaving, Tang Shui suddenly felt upset. People let you go, but you left like this, didn't you give me face? Now coldly said, wait. Is there anything else? After hearing the words, Chu Yang turned around and said, while he said, there was a deep flash of strange color in his eyes. The fish bit a hook. I've let you go. You just leave like this. It won't look a little. So how are you doing? Well, let me entertain you. Tang Shui said with a look of shame. Forget it, hospitality, I am helping others without asking for returns. Chu Yong said without blushing. Author, the most shameless man, this guy is my upstairs. Even if you don't ask for anything in return, you have to go with me. Ms. Ben said in front of most people in Yuzhou, whoever rescued me will be rewarded again. Moreover, just now you asked me to spare the guy, and I listened to you, and let him go. Isn't you willing to give me a thin face and let me treat you well? Tang Shuijian said, with a little question in his eyes. All right. After hearing the words, Chu Yong nodded and then left with Tang Shuijian. Chapter 91. I'm back. When Tang Shui saw Tang Jiabao, he looked like a fish in the water, looking cheerful. Miss, are you back? A bunch of maids, ding, saw Tang Shui walk into the door with a sway and swarmed around, apparently trying to please the young lady. And when Tang Shui saw everyone coming to please him, he was very happy, and quickly took out 2 silver rewards. Ah! Chu Yong looked at this scene, and then thought of the tragic scene when the original book, Tang Shui, was kicked out of the house without help, and shook his head and sighed. Seeing that he was being held high by everyone, Tang Shui almost forgot about it. He almost sighed at Chu Yong at this moment. He suddenly remembered Chu Yong who was forgotten by himself. He immediately cleared his throat and said, you hurry down to prepare the banquet. I want to thank my Salvation Man today. Quote. Yes, miss. The crowd heard the words, and after looking at Chu Yong for a few moments, they dispersed. Seeing that everyone was gone, Tang Shui could not help but look to Chu Yong Road. It will take a while for the banquet to be ready. Do you want to go to the guest room for a rest, or just stroll around the house? You can do it. It's all beauty. Chu Yong said with a smile. That being the case, then I will take you to the guest room to rest. After speaking, regardless of Chu Yang's reaction, Tang Shui blushed at the sight, and quickly trot out. Chu Yong looked at Tang Shui to see this pair, and could not help but say, this girl is quite interesting. After forgetting the thoughts in his mind, he followed Tang Shui's back, and went all the way to the guest room. At this time, Sedum is wandering in the alley with a look of irritation. Why is this so? Mainly, he found a sad thing, the jade that he had made from his hard wish was gone. I wouldn't have gone out if I knew it, not to mention hitting so many people, lost a couple of dollars, and was taught by Miss Tang Jiabao, and said that you pay, that's my sweetheart, no I thought of leaving me like this, oh. God, if you want to play, don't play like this. It's really hurting feelings. Quote. The thought of a treasure worth 2,000 disappeared like this. Sedum could not help crying and said without tears, after complaining for half an hour, after discovering that there was no effect, he dragged his tired body and limped. Left the alley. And the moment he left, a man in a black cloak appeared in the alley, looking at the Sedum far away, his face could not help showing a strange color. Jade is not on him. What happened? Wait, everything in the next generation seems to have changed, this. He seemed to notice something, and the man in the black cloak suddenly said with a look of horror, but before the words landed, the whole person disappeared, leaving only one cloak in the place. The banquet was not set up until the evening. My son, it's been half a day, and you are invited to a banquet. A maid outside the door called to Chu Yong. After hearing that, Chu Yong opened her eyes suddenly, exhaled a stale gas in her mouth, and stood up to arrange her clothes, and stepped out of the guest room full of energy. Let you wait long. Show me the way. Chu Yong took a piece of silver and handed it to the maid. Thank you son, please here. After the maid took over Chu Yang's silver, she could not help but salute, and then led Chu Yong. Following the maid all the way, Chu Yong soon came to a brightly lit garden. A costumed Tang Shuijian was originally talking with an old man cheerfully. At this time, when he saw Chu Yong coming, he couldn't help welcoming him, and said a little bit blame, why are you here now? It hurt me and grandpa for a long time it's up. Quote. Chu Yong heard Tang Shuijian say this, and a flash of apology flashed in his eyes, explaining at the moment, sorry. Something has been delayed, let the two wait a long time. Ha, Chu Yang's explanation was unhappy when Tang Shui heard it, apparently still angry for Chu Yang to keep his grandpa waiting. Chu Yang looked at her like this, and knew that her young lady had a bad temper, but he didn't care, and if she had a chance to adjust in the future. Shui saw this girl was spoiled by me, so she seemed so rude, but she is very good in nature, and please don't mind the little friends. Tang Shuijian once again had a bad temper. Tang Kun suddenly she smiled and explained to Chu Yang. Mr. Tang laughed and laughed. Would he have a general understanding with women? Tang Kun, listening to Chu Yang, said with a smile. What's wrong with women? Why can't you just see women in general? Tang Shui was unhappy when he saw his face. Shui Jian, don't be rude, after all, the little friend is kind to you. Seeing this, Tang Kun quickly scolded. Grandpa, this guy is disrespectful to you, but I'm angry for you. How can you scold me? After hearing the words of Chu Yang reacted. The reason why he was treated coldly by Tang Shui was because he did not show much respect to Tang Kun. But this is no wonder to myself. After all, the experience of these days has caused a great change in his personality. It seems that he is gradually losing his humanity. This little friend is an extraordinary person, why should he respect me? Tang Kun was old and savvy, naturally closing Chu Yang's emotions to his eyelids. Now touching Tang Shui's head, he said with a pampered face. It looks like he is not an individual. Where is it extraordinary? Tang Shui said puzzled. Although she had a good opinion of Chu Yang, she really couldn't see where Chu Yang was extraordinary. Really extraordinary? After all, I can't see him. Of course Tang Kun didn't say this, but said it in his heart. Soon, the banquet began. Of course, there were not many scenes. Just 4 or 5 tables were set up. After all, Chu Yang only rescued Miss Tangman, and there was no need for high treatment. At the banquet, Tang Kun kept talking about the funny events of breaking through the rivers and lakes, and even raised his glass to take a few sips, causing Tang Shui to see his eyes. Chu Yang had no feelings about this, but only occasionally should reconcile a few words, and the rest of the time was quietly drinking small wine, planning the strategy plan of the fairy sword world in his heart. After half an hour, the banquet was over. Little friend, after a long time, I don't know who your last name is, and where do you live? Can you tell me if it's convenient? Before leaving, Tang Kun looked at Chu Yang with affectionate authenticity. There is nothing convenient or inconvenient. The name is used to call it, Chu Yang under. Chu Yang Shen Sheng replied. Chu Yang, good name. Tang Kun sighed. Thank you for your praise. Chu Yang held his fist in a polite manner. I'm not bragging about you, it's really good to get your name. Tang Kun said after stunning Yu Pei from Chu Yang's waist. Grandpa, you have been drinking too much alcohol today, just stop talking and go to rest first. Seeing Tang Kun and continuing to chat with Chu Yang, Tang Shui could not help but persuade. That being the case, Chu Xiaoyu, let's continue to talk tomorrow. Said Tang Kun left with the help of Tang Shui. Seeing this, Chu Yang returned to the guest room. At night, Chu Yang was playing Jade Pendant in the house. The Jade Pendant contained a strange power, which seemed very mysterious. At this time, there was a knock at the door. After looking at it with perspective, Chu Yang couldn't help but feel strange, but said, Who? My son Chu Yang, it's me, see Tang Shui. Qingling's voice came from the door. It's Miss Tang, what's the matter for a late night visit? Chu Yang stepped forward, opened the door, and looked at Tang Shui, who was dressed up. I want to collect some dew at the foot of Shushan to heal my grandpa, but the road is a little far away, and I am afraid that I will encounter a hooligan. So I will come to you. I hope you can accompany me. With a flushed expression. It turned out to be me. Chu Yang said disappointed. Why are you looking unhappy? Tang Shui was puzzled. I thought you came to show my heart. Who knows not, so it's a little sad. Chu Yang said playfully. Go to death, who will show you your heart? Although you saved someone, they also repaid you and invited you to eat. Besides, you are not a big hero. They like a big hero. Tang Shui said blushing. Well, don't say, where is Shushan? We should set off. Wen Yan said, Chu Yang could not help but say. There, Tang Shui pointed to the east. That's good, let's go. Looking at the direction pointed by Tang Shuijian, Chu Yang did see a towering mountain. Let's go. Tang Shui nodded. then turned and left. Walking too slowly, let you try the feeling of flying today. Looking at Tang Shuijian's back, Chu Yong couldn't help but say, then flashed, came to Tang Shuijian, hugged it, and flew towards Shushan. Ah, 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 seeing himself flying up in the volley, Tang Shui suddenly screamed. Don't call, get your tools for collecting dew. Chu Yong could not help but hear the scream of Tang Shui. You guy, Fei didn't tell me, it scared me. Tang Shui said angrily. It's boring to tell you, after all, this is a surprise I gave you. Chu Yong said with a playful expression. Scared you? I was scared to death. I didn't expect that you would still fly. Are you a fairy in the sky? Or a sword fairy on Shushan? I wanted to worship Shushan since I was a child. Give up? Tang Shui asked curiously. None, I'm Superman, Chu Yong replied. I have only heard of immortals, gods, sages, what is this Superman? Tang Shui was even more puzzled. Superman is not a thing. Chu Yong thought for a while and said. Are you scolding yourself? Tang Shui smiled inexplicably. No, Superman is not something. He is the embodiment of hope, the messenger of light, and the symbol of justice. Chu Yong said solemnly. Although I don't understand, I feel so good. Tang Shuijian shook his head. There is no need to understand, catch it, we will soon be at the foot of Shushan. Speaking, Chu Yong disappeared to Tang Shuijian and affixed 2 rune papers to himself. 2 seconds later, at the foot of Shushan. Here, Chu Yong said softly after dropping Tang Shui. It's too fast. Usually I walked for half an hour before I walked. Looking at everything familiar around him, Tang Shui exclaimed suddenly. Don't say it, aren't you going to collect dew? Go. Yeah, after hearing that, Tang Shui stepped forward when he saw it, but didn't want to. No matter how he went, he seemed to be tied to the place, and it was useless to break free, it felt as if someone was holding himself. What did you pull me for? It didn't help to break free. Tang Shui couldn't help but look back at Chu Yong Road. I have both hands here. Pull you like this. After hearing Shui Shui's words, Chu Yong quickly stretched out his 2 hands and said. Seeing Chu Yong held out his hand, Tang Shui saw that he was going to take the first step, but the result was still useless. What's going on? Seeing that Chu Yong didn't pull himself, he still couldn't get away, and could only rely on him. Tang Shui suddenly wondered. It should be this relationship. Chu Yong pointed at Yu Pei, who said together. Hearing that, Tang Shui suddenly turned his eyes to the direction pointed by Chu Yong. He didn't know it. He was startled when he saw the jade pendant hanging on Chu Yang's waist and his own body. Tang Shui was shocked and said, why do you have such a jade? Is there anything wrong? Although he knew about this jade affair, Chu Yong still pretended not to know. No, no problem. Tang Shui glanced a few times. I didn't expect this guy to be my destiny. I thought my destiny would be a gentle, handsome, civilized man. I didn't expect. However, this guy still looks pretty good at present, depending on the performance in the future. If the performance is good, Miss Ben would barely marry him. After Tang Shui saw a glance at Chu Yong, he thought secretly in his heart. Not ready to separate Yu Pei yet. Tang Shuijian said to Chu Yong with an attitude of instructing his subordinates. Add a word next time, can you? Chu Yong said with a frown, and then separated Yu Pei. After hearing that, Tang Shui frowned, but didn't answer. When Yu Pei was separated, he quickly took out a kettle and handed it to Chu Yong. Here, you go there, I go to the other side. Be sure to do the collection is full. Quote. Miss Tang Shui, please add a word please. Can you? Chu Yong looked at Tang Shui's delicate face and said. I don't want to add. Tang Shui said without thinking. Then I won't help you, let me do it myself. Seeing Tang Shui see this, Chu Yong said without expression, then turned around and jumped on the tree. Hey, you are my loved one. How could you be so stingy that you wouldn't help? I wanted to test you out. Seeing Chu Yong reluctant to help, Tang Shui was a little angry. Is it because I am your destined person that you ask me to help without adding a word? Miss Tang, I need to be respected. Chu Yong said solemnly. After hearing that, Tang Shuijian also knew that his attitude made Chu Yong a little angry, and he couldn't help but say, okay. Okay, I'll add a word in the future, shouldn't there be any problem. Then he said, Chu Yong, son, can you help me collect the dew, please? Although it doesn't sound sincere, but I forgive you. Hearing Tang Shui's words, Chu Yong suddenly fell slowly from the tree. What is insincerity? What is forgiveness? Miss Ben is right, Tang Shui said with some dissatisfaction. I won't argue with you, bring the kettle. Seeing Tang Shui see the young lady had a spleen, Chu Yong simply gave up arguing with her, and then reached out and said, "Here you." Tang Shuijian handed the kettle to Chu Yong. After taking the kettle, Chu Yong went east. This guy made Miss Ben very unhappy, and suddenly didn't want him as a loved one. Looking at the back of Chu Yong leaving, Tang Shui couldn't help whispering, and then went west. After walking for dozens of meters, I came to a place with a lot of flowers, watching the crystal water drops on it, when Chu Yong was trying to collect. Help, help, Chu Yong, you fool, please help me. A life-saving voice suddenly came from the east. This is Tang Shui seeing that girl's voice. What happened? Counting the time, now it seems that it is not yet time to draw swords in the heavy building, the Lock Demon Tower bursts, and the time when the demon was born. It stands to reason that the current foot of Shu Mountain should be no demon is wrong. Quote. Hearing Tang Shuijian's voice, Chu Yong couldn't help guessing in his heart, then super speed up, and in the blink of an eye, came to the place where Tang Shuijian called for help. At the moment, I saw only a ghost-like, fierce monster, chasing Tang Shui and biting. Poison Man. Seeing the appearance of this monster, Chu Yong immediately associated with the TV plot. The Poison Man made by Luo Ruli, shook his head. When the Poison Man was about to throw Tang Shui to sea, a feverish vision sent him on. Shishin. Send something like this to Shishin. As for why it was sent to Shishin and not to hell. That's because I can only send good people to hell. After all, even the Tibetan King Bodhisattva can see through. I don't go to hell, who will go to hell? This proves that the so-called Western bliss world is more sad. You guy, finally here. Tang Shui saw Chu Yong kill a poisonous man with a laser, and he couldn't help sitting on the ground panting. I didn't really want to come, but some beautiful woman kept scolding me asshole, and I came over. Chu Yong said after pulling it up. What do you mean? Could it be that you like others to scold you asshole? Tang Shui was puzzled. No, just because I hate people calling me a fool, and I came here not to save you, just to beat you. Then, Chu Yong hugged Tang Shuijian and waved his palm. On her hips, hit hard. Slap, 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 slap. For a while, crisp sounds echoed at the foot of the mountain. Ah, 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 don't you dare scold me in the future. Chu Yong raised his hand and said. You fool, I really hate to die, let go of me. Feeling the pain from the hip up, Tang Shui scolded painfully when she saw that she was both ashamed and painful. Huh, dare to scold me. It seems that you little girl can't understand the form. Then, Chu Yong slaps up again. Asshole, slap, 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 ah, ah, ah. After about 80 slaps, Tang Shui stopped seeing Chu Yong as a fool, lying on Chu Yang's legs, looking at Chu Yong with resentment, with a few tears in his eyes. Do you still curse me in the future? Chu Yang's mood was indescribable. Woohoo. Tang Shui shook his head and saw. That's right, people respect each other and can't scold people at will. Seeing Tang Shui's attitude, Chu Yong couldn't help pinching her delicate and smooth cheeks, and smiled authentically. Then it seemed that she was fascinated by the perfect face that Tang Shui saw, and Chu Yong kissed her on the forehead. Originally, Tang Shuijian was a little dissatisfied with Chu Yong's pinching of his cheeks, and was trying to speak out, but didn't want Chu Yong's kiss. Chu Yong seemed a little dissatisfied. After kissing her forehead, she put her target on her lips. Seeing that bright red lips approached his mouth, Tang Shui immediately resisted, but at this time he was held by Chu Yong, how could he resist and had to be violated? At the moment of kissing, I felt that Chu Yong's tone was so fresh, and it also had a good smell. Tang Shuijian did not resist, but he became more active. After kissing for about 10 minutes, the two talents separated. Chu Yong, if you dare not treat me well in the future, I will kill you. Tang Shui said threateningly as he squeezed the soft flesh around Chu Yang's waist. As long as you are good to me, then I will also be good to you, I will never give up forever. Chu Yong licked his tongue and said solemnly. I promise to give you all my love. You must not lose me. Tang Shui saw looking at Chu Yong and said again, she was really afraid that Chu Yong lost herself. Rest assured, I still have some credit. It's not too late now, let's go back to rest. After gently pinching Tang Shui to see Junting's nose, Chu Yong said with a smile on his face. But the dew collected for Grandpa. Tang Shui pointed at the kettle on the ground, full of lost authenticity. Sit first. Let's collect it. Although the dew is really useless, Chu Yong still decided to collect it. After all, this is Tang Shuijian's filial piety. How do you sit? After hearing Chu Yang's words, Tang Shui could not help but glance at him. If not for this bad person, he would not be so painful. I've forgotten it, remember, don't scold me next time. Then, Chu Yong reached out and rubbed his hips. Only feeling a few breaths pierced into the body, Tang Shui saw the injury on his buttocks and healed immediately. Okay, I'm going to collect the dew. You stay in the tree first, don't move around. After ordering it, Chu Yong took 2 kettles and turned on the super speed, but after a few minutes, he put the kettle full of so much. Looking at the 2 pots of dew, Tang Shui said excitedly when he saw. Don't be shocked, put away. Let's go back, Chu Yong said after pinching Tang Shui to see Junting's nose. Well, but this time I don't want you to hold it, I want you to carry me. Tang Shui said, hugging the 2 kettles, and said intimately. Okay. After hearing this, Chu Yong saw Tang Shui on his back, holding his slender body with both hands, and then rose into the sky. Walking in the vast sky again, Tang Shui saw an indescribable joy in his heart, looked at Chu Yong under his eyes, and said with deep affection, "You fool, don't really bear me." Ding. Because the host changed the plot, causing the heroine Tang Shui to fall in love with the host, so the task was released: kill the evil sword fairy, knock down the building. Reward for task completion: 2 million origin points, a world-class draw once only for this world. Quote. At this time, the sound of the system sounded in Chu Yang's mind. Kill the evil sword fairy and defeat the heavy building. System, do I have such great ability? These 2 goods are really great, probably both are 4-dimensional strong. Chu Yong suddenly heard the words of the system. There is a feeling of myocardial infarction. Ding. Through system identification, it is found that the late strength of the evil sword fairy is in the middle of the 4-dimensional. At the beginning of the current 4-dimensional building, the host has worked hard, and there is no need to belittle oneself. System, it's good not to joke about this thing, otherwise the ancestral tomb will explode. I'm just a pseudo 4-dimensional, you just call me Gangxian, Shenxian and Zonglo. This is tantamount to death. Chu Yong knows himself he's capable, but he doesn't have that kind of ability and strong swordsman. Ding. The host is a pseudo 4-dimensional, it is not just weaker than the 4-dimensional. It is only because the host's speed cannot reach the speed of light and its life is not long enough to die. Therefore, the host is judged to be a pseudo 4-dimensional, but in fact the host's strength, reaction, defense, and all abilities have reached the 4-dimensional standard, so the host does not need to counsel, they will be right as soon as they have buffs with yellow stars and blue stars, it is true. Quote. Really, last time you destroyed me, you also called me gang, I almost died. Chu Yong said that the system's swear words could not be believed. Ding. Despite this, the host did succeed in killing the Day of Destruction into the 4-dimensional realm, and killed the Day of Destruction with the power of the 7-layer normal Superman at the time, so the host does not need to be vain. Know that you are stronger now than you were. Quote. Nothing. Don't say any more, since there is already a task, I can only accept, but although you have no penalty for failure, I still want to say that someone else's system is good. You can also refuse the task, but I am sorry I can't. After hearing a systematic statement, Chu Yong complained a few moments, then speeded up and sent Tang Shui to see Tang Jiabao. Chu Yong, thank you tonight. Take a good rest now, I'll take care of Grandpa, and I will come to you tomorrow. After returning to Tang Jiabao, Tang Shui gave Chu Yong a big hug when he saw it, and then carried the kettle to open. This girl is really interesting. Looking at the back of Tang Shui seeing the departure, Chu Yong could not help raising his mouth, and then returned to the room to start a one-day practice. There is no time for spiritual practice. When Chu Yong wakes up again, it is already early morning. Finally, Yuanying's realm is good. Chu Yong was a little excited looking at his own baby sitting in a Dantian circle. Chu Yong, are you awake? At this time, Tang Shui's voice came out from the door. What's the matter? Chu Yong asked curiously. But just after speaking, Tang Shui came into the room with water. Water, I'll just put it here, you can wash your face quickly. After Tang Shui saw the water was lowered, he looked at Chu Yong Road, who meditated cross-legged. So good to me. It looks like your girl has no vengeance. I didn't care about spanking you last night, Chu Yong said playfully. You guys really hate death. Don't mention it during the daytime. If someone listens, my face will be swept away. Remembering the scene where Chu Yong picked himself up last night and beat his hips, Tang Shui Zhangji felt like a fire was burning on his face, and she was full of coyness. Don't mention it during the day. How about mentioning it at night? Seeing this girl flushed, Chu Yong could not help but tease. You fool. Seeing that Chu Yong was teasing himself, Tang Shui saw his little pink fist raised and smashed into his chest. Watching the weak pink powder fist hitting himself, Chu Yang's face flashed a wicked smile, then grabbed the small hand, pulled Tang Shuijian into his arms, and held a mad kiss. Tang Shui saw that he could not resist, he simply did not resist, and took the initiative to cooperate. It was another kiss of about 10 minutes, and the two were separated. You guys, it's really bad. After licking his tongue, Tang Shui saw his eyes turned white. A man is not bad, a woman does not love it. Don't say anything, wash your face first. Then Chu Yong jumped out of bed and washed her face. Looking at Chu Yong's face washing, Tang Shui seemed to think something, and quickly said, Grandpa told me that if you finish washing your face, I will take you to a family dinner. Home feast. Treat me as a family so soon. After rubbing his face, Chu Yong was a little playful and authentic. I don't want to treat you as a family. Only Grandpa told me to take you away, so I have no choice but to take you there. Tang Shui said after shaking his legs. It seems your grandpa has something to say to me. Then we won't let him wait any longer, let's go. Then, Chu Yong took Tang Shui away. In the hall of Tangjiabao. I heard that an outsider has come to our Tangjiabao. And it's a little closer to Shuijian's girl, I'm afraid it has nothing to do with Shuijian. A more beautiful woman, facing the people around. Yun Yun, you can't eat or sleep, don't talk when you eat, the ancestors' rules are broken. Tang Kun said impassively, after hearing the woman's words. Grandpa, am I not worried? Snow sees that girl is still small, what if she is cheated? There are too many bad guys in the world, especially some men who are best at rhetoric. The woman called as Yun Yun still said. If you don't bother you, I will take care of Shui Shui. If she is deceived, I will kill that person to vent her anger. Tang Kun said in a bad manner. Shuijian. After hearing the words, Tang Yunyan had something to say, but Tang Tai immediately poked, and now he had to shut up. Miss Shuijian is here. At this moment, a voice came from the door. Shui, seeing this girl, finally came. Tang Kun said with a smile on his face when he heard the voice of someone outside the door, and he stood outside the door. Seeing this, Tang Yunyan was full of jealousy. For a long time, Tang Kun loved Shuijian more than himself. Grandpa, I brought Chuyang. Tang Shuijian pulled Chuyang into the hall. Chu Xiaoyu is here too, and sit next to Shuijian soon. Tang Kun saw Chuyang, could not help but shouted, and even reached out to signal Chuyang to sit down beside him. Brother, this is irrational. After all, this is a family feast. Tang Tai quickly reminded Tang Kun that he had Chuyang come to sit next to him. Just because he is Shefu's husband-in-law, you can take this. Tang Kun said solemnly, and then motioned to Tang Shuijian to let her pull Chuyang. Let's sit down. Tang Shuijian pulled Chuyang's arm a few times. Thank you, Father Tang, for assigning Shui Jianshu to me, I am grateful. After listening to Tang Kun, Chuyang sat beside him. Ha, slick mouth, Shuijian's sister, don't you see the wrong person? Seeing this, Tang Yunyan said to Tang Shuijian in a nasty manner. I read the wrong person, it doesn't matter to you, you still have to worry about yourself. Be careful not to marry later. Tang Shui said slightly at the corner of his mouth. I do it for you, but I don't want you to curse me like this. After hearing Tang Shui's words, Tang Yunyan was a little angry, and then he looked at Tang Kun and said, Grandpa, Shuijian is all yours, you have a temper, you don't care. Quote. Shuijian, don't say that next time. After hearing that, Tang Kun couldn't help but see Tang Shui. Yes, Grandpa, Tang Shui replied sweetly. Well, now that everyone is here, let's have dinner. Seeing Tang Shui's position, Tang Kun nodded with satisfaction and then looked at the crowd. Grandpa, you don't punish Shuijian. Tang Yanyan was obviously dissatisfied with Tang Kun's handling. She's your sister. Don't worry about it as an elder sister. Besides, Shuijian is still young. Only 17 years old, some are not very sensible, it is normal. Tang Kun explained. After listening to Tang Kun's remarks, Tang Yunyan also understood that Tang Kunming was posing to protect Tang Shuijian. Now he had to break his teeth into the stomach, and thought he was unlucky. This Tang Kun is too spoiled for Shuijian. It's all granddaughters, but the difference is so big, but also right. Shuijian ran to sleep to collect dew for Tang Kun in the middle of the night. This kind of filial piety is worthy of Tang Kun treat. After seeing this scene, Chu Yang couldn't help thinking about it. Chu Xiaoyu, what are you thinking about? Let's do it. Today, I specifically ordered someone to buy good food. Seeing Chu Yang seems to be thinking about something, Tang Kun called out immediately. Hey, fool, Grandpa called you. Tang Shui, sitting next to Chu Yang, pinched the soft meat around Chu Yang's waist and reminded. Don't rush to eat first, you gave me Shuijian Shu, I will naturally give you a big gift. Said Chu Yang, while letting the system burn the exercises he has cultivated into a book, and then took it out handed it to Tang Kun. This is the practice of practicing immortality. Opening the book handed over by Chu Yang, Tang Kun couldn't help but be shocked and authentic. What, Shu Gong? People around the table were shocked to hear Tang Kun's words. Their Tang family has reached such a point simply by virtue of martial arts. If they mastered the practice of cultivating immortals, they will not know what height to reach in the future. Little friend's gift is too heavy. Tang Kun took a quick look and planned to return it to Chu Yang. Let's take it. It's a bit of my mind. Besides, you gave me such a beautiful little girl, why can't I give it away? Watching Tang Kun pushing back the exercises, Chu Yang could not help but waved. Then I will accept it. Seeing Chu Yang say this, Tang Kun had to accept it. After all, this kind of thing has a tremendous gain to the family, he is unwilling to be false. This meal was very enjoyable. Since Chu Yang Liang showed the cultivation method, everyone has toasted toasts, and the farts have been beaten louder and louder. What a peerless beautiful man, a master of the world, and so on. Had it not been for Chu Yang's mentality to be tempered, I am afraid it would have been a long time ago. At the foot of Shu Mountain, Chu Yang and Tang Shui went side by side. Did you see it just now? Those people tout my technology, one better than the other, if not my heart is good, maybe the whole person is floating now. Chu Yang looked at Tang Shui and said with some funny. It's all loved ones, don't talk about it. Although Tang Shui saw the scene and smiled a little, he still resisted, after all, he was a loved one. Give you a face, don't say anything. Chu Yang responded quickly when hearing Tang Shui's words. At the same time, Tang Shuijian was more loved in his heart. Although this girl is a bit willful, she is still very good in other aspects. However, if you let Tang Shuijian know how the elders she respected in the original book treated Tang Kun after her death, I don't know what it would be like to be sad. For your obedience, wait for the dew to go back and I will give you some small rewards. Seeing Chu Yang listening to himself for the first time, Tang Shui said flushed on his face. Reward, your grandpa promised you to me anyway, or tonight. Chu Yang said with amusement. Just what? Tang Shui asked a little puzzled. Xingfang. Chu Yang looked at the pedestrians passing by, and couldn't help leaning against Tang Shui's ears. This is not possible, we haven't become married yet. Tang Shui said with a flush on her face, but, although she said that, she also had a little expectation in her eyes. Before, I had heard others say what was going on with the house. I haven't really tried it yet. No, silly girl, I've seen the expectation in your eyes long ago, I'll be from the uncle tonight. Chu Yang pinched Tang Shuijian's nose and said. I didn't expect it. Tang Shui saw her eyes dodging authentically. Squat. After listening to Tang Shui's words, Chu Yang originally wanted to continue to make fun of him, but then he seemed to see something, and he called Tang Shuijian to squat. Although Tang Shui was curious, he squatted down. Just then, Tang Shui saw a poisonous man behind him shot through Chu Yang's hot vision. Oh, Hearing the sound of the ground falling from behind, Tang Shui couldn't help looking back. Suddenly I saw a weird corpse, and it looked like it was the same thing that attacked myself last night. Now I couldn't help but got up and ran behind Chu Yang, holding Chu Yang's arm tightly and saying, "What are these things? It looks too scary." Quote, "This is a poisonous person bites people. As long as they are bitten or scratched, they will become like them." Chu Yang looked at the corpse lying on the ground and said calmly, "Ah, then you have to protect me, I don't want to be like them." After hearing Chu Yang's explanation, Tang Shui was frightened at first, then full of fear and authenticity. Release. After hearing the words, Chu Yangang wanted to speak to relax him, but before he finished speaking, dozens of poisonous people rushed around. Looking at these venomous poisonous people, Chu Yang quickly dragged Tang Shui to sea flying up, spurred by hot vision, and instantly killed dozens of poisoned people on the spot. Roar, roar. At this moment, another pile came from the east. "Shishan is gone." Looking at these poisonous people, Chu Yang said with a cold face, and then fired a fiery red laser again in his eyes, intending to kill them all. "Brother, keep it now." A loud drink came from afar. Chu Yang heard the words, could not help but withdraw her hot vision, looked at the source of the sound, and suddenly, saw a man in white stepping on a leaf, coming towards Chu Yang. "Shu Changqing," Chu Yang said, looking at the person. "Who is Shu Changqing?" Tang Shui was puzzled. "Big Shushan disciple." Seeing Tang Shui and asking, Chu Yang explained. At this time, Shu Changqing who had arrived had already subdued all the poisonous people. Seeing that Chu Yang seemed to know himself, he could not help but ask Chu Yang, "Do you know me?" "Get to know. After all, you are a great disciple of Shushan, well known far and near. Does that brother know where these poisonous people come from?" In recent days, all our Shushan disciples have encountered poisonous people, and the nearby villages have been repeatedly attacked by poisonous people. Shu Changqing asked for advice. "I know this, but I need some benefits," Chu Yang said with amused expression. "My brother is also a monk. Isn't he still greedy those things that are not white and yellow?" After hearing what Chu Yang said, Shu Changqing subconsciously thought that Chu Yang wanted money. "I don't care about money. What I want is Shushan Taoism," Chu Yang said solemnly. "Shu Mountain Taoism, this. Brother, you are also a monk, you should understand the laws between the schools, and forbid private preaching to people in other schools, otherwise you will be expelled from the school." Shu Changqing's face was a bit ugly tunnel. "Then no more talk. Shuijian, let's go." After hearing Shu Changqing's words, Chu Yang held Tang Shuijian and was about to leave. Seeing that Chu Yang was leaving, Shu Changqing immediately saluted. "Please also ask my brother to inform me of the source of the poisonous person. This is a matter of life." Chu Yang didn't bother and flew in the direction of Tangjiabao. For him, his mission goal was only to rebuild the building and the evil sword fairy. The others did not concern him, and he could ignore it. Seeing Chu Yang blink of an eye, it was hundreds of meters away, and Shu Changqing could not help but catch up. "Dao brother, this matter is not handled properly, and many people will die. Please also tell me the source of the poisonous person, we will deal with it in time." Shu Changqing continued begging. But Chu Yang still didn't bother. Just like that, he had been following Tangjiabao, Shu Changqing was still begging for Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, otherwise tell the source of this heroine of Changqing and let him deal with it." Seeing Shu Changqing following him along the way, Tang Shui couldn't help pulling the collar of Chu Yang and opened his mouth. "Say. Thank you, miss." Seeing Tang Shuijian begging for herself, Shu Changqing thanked quickly. "Thank you for her is still useless, I still ask for a Taoist exchange in order to know that there is never a free lunch in this world." Chu Yang said mercilessly. "You guys, it's hard for me to ask you again, but I didn't expect you to be like this, and I didn't leave it for others," Tang Shui said with some dissatisfaction. Seeing Chu Yang still like this, Shu Changqing didn't know what to say. "Don't you want to solve the problem of poisoning people and not harm the people of Li Min? Why do you still hesitate in one way? Is it possible that in your eyes, the lives of the people are not as good as one way? If this is the case, then I advise you to stop fighting chivalry and hurriedly close the mountain door. It is not worth it. After all, this hypocritical chivalry spirit is very disgusting." Seeing Xu Chengqing hesitating again on this matter, Chu Yang could not help but sarcastically. I don't know what kind of Taoism my brother wants, as long as I can pass it to you, just ask you not to spread it. After listening to what Chu Yang said, Xu Chengqing finally no longer hesitated. Seeing that Xu Chengqing finally opened up, and was willing to trade Taoism in exchange for the source of the poisoned man, Chu Yang said immediately, this is what makes the people in the heart of Li, and you are willing to make sacrifices for the people. It is admirable. Let's talk about Tao. I heard that Shushan's royal sword technique is the best in the world, and I don't want anything else, I just want this. Quote. Okay. After hearing the words, Xu Chengqing could not help but yell, and then stretched out 2 fingers, and clicked on the cover of Chu Yang Tianling. For a while, Chu Yang found that in his mind, suddenly there were some more recipes for royal swordsmanship. Alright. After about 10 seconds, Xu Chengqing retracted his finger. Thank you for the gift. Let me point you to the source of the poisonous man. Then, Chu Yang pointed his finger to a gambling house, and by the way, passed the message he saw to Xu Chengqing. Now that I have found the source, then I will go and chop them up for wrongdoing and hurt the bad people of the people of Li Min. After arching his hands in front of Chu Yang, Xu Chengqing said with a look of seriousness, and afterwards he planned to rush to the casino. That Luo Ruli is very strong, you still don't have to be reckless. If you want to deal with him, find more people to go with. Seeing Xu Chengqing raising his sword, he would kill the gambling house, Chu Yang quickly reminded. Thank you for asking me, I will find 8 brothers. After hearing what Chu Yang said, Xu Chengqing could not help but salute, and then he took out the communicator and started calling. Seeing Xu Chengqing like this, Chu Yang didn't want to say anything, he quickly held Tang Shui and saw that he had fallen to Tang Jiabao. In the guest room courtyard. I'm going to see Grandpa first, Tang Shui said after coming out of Chu Yang's arms. No, Chu Yang shook his head and said. Why, can't you stop me from being filial? Tang Shui grumbled a little when he saw it. That's not it, just when someone was collecting dew with me at the foot of Shushan, he said he would give me some small rewards at night. Chu Yang said calmly. Then what reward do you want? Tang Shui saw blushing. I ate you. As he said, Chu Yang embraced Tang Shuijian, blocked his pink lips, and then started to get his hands up. There is it's pretty good at this age, but it's still not big enough. After touching the that Tang Shui saw, Chu Yang secretly said in his heart. Watching Tang Shui see his breathless kiss, Chu Yang suddenly shifted her position and began to bite her ear. After suffering a series of actions from Chu Yang, Tang Shui could not help but groan, and heard Tang Mon's groan. The combat power of Chu Yang increased greatly. Especially when I felt that the girl's handsome buttocks had been rubbing on her own things, Chu Yang only wanted to see Tang Shui right there. Finally, under the new round of friction, Chu Yang could not bear it anymore. Holding Tang Shui, he walked to the room. After a long time, a shocked voice came out of the room. This is an artifact. I didn't expect me to have a day to enjoy the artifact. What? Immediately, a scream came out. Then, all kinds of unpleasant sounds echoed in the courtyard. This is really true, as he did to others last night. Looking at Chu Yang who was sleeping under him, Tang Shui could not help but draw a circle on his chest and said complainingly. I didn't want to. When I got to the 5th circle, I was pinched by Chu Yang's big hand. Shuijian, your girl is still embarrassed to say me, and I don't know who it was, I kept calling last night. Chu Yang opened her eyes and squeezed Tang Shuijian Junting's nose gently, and said with a playful expression. I really hate to die, I said this in the morning. Tang Shui said with a look of shame. Hate, you little girl has a bad heart. It seems we need to learn more about it. After hearing Shui's words, Chu Yang's hand slowly felt it. Feeling something strange, Tang Shui couldn't help screaming. When he heard this puff, Chu Yang burst into flames, planning to turn over and suppress Tang Shuijian. However, just then, there was a knock outside the door. Someone is here, don't make it. Hearing the knock from outside the door, Tang Shui quickly opened Chu Yang's hand and said nervously. After all, now that he is not married to Chu Yang, he will do this day-old prostitution. If he spreads it, his reputation will be ruined. Okay, Seeing Tang Shuijian say this, Chu Yong had to be a little disappointed, then opened his eyes to look out the door, and seemed to want to see which one disturbed himself. I didn't want to see this, but I saw a woman slap on the door of her room. Her eyes were stunned, a strange breath was flowing between her eyebrows, and some bite marks on her arm. Why is there a poisonous man in Tangjiabao? It stands to reason that if Xu Chengqing and a group of brothers and sisters jointly deal with Luo Ruli, the matter of poisoning people should also be dealt with. With this in mind, Chu Yong patted Tang Shuijian. Get on your clothes, your house has been captured by a poisoned man. What? They were captured by a poisoned man. Grandpa, they will be fine. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Tang Shui said with anxiety, and then quickly put on his clothes. I'll take a look with you. Chu Yong said, then quickly put on his clothes. Seeing that because of his special constitution, Tang Shui recovered all the pain caused by his break last night. After putting on his clothes, he jumped out of bed and ran towards the door. There is a poisonous man outside the door. Don't worry. The person who saw Tang Shui seeing the fire rushed to open the door. Chu Yong could not help reminding, and then strolled to Tang Shuijian beside the court. Then you have to deal with him quickly. I still want to see Grandpa. After hearing what Chu Yong said, Tang Shui hurried. Don't worry, but it's just a small matter. After tapping Tang Shuijian's shoulder, she signaled that she didn't need to worry. Chu Yong picked her up, flew in the sky, smashed the house, and faced Tang Kun. The place flew away. Xiao Kui, Jasper, Wang Kai, they all became poisonous. Volley flew away, passing by some courtyards, watching the people who usually played with themselves became poisonous. Tang Shui could not help but feel a bit sad. Soon, I went to Tang Kun's residence. As soon as he landed, Tang Shui broke away from Chu Yang's embrace, ran to the house, and shouted, Grandpa. As a result, there were dozens of beeps, and there was no response from the house. At the moment, when the heart flew, it was a kick to the door. The door opened, and no one was in the house. Where did Grandpa go? Seeing that the house was empty, Tang Shui said, suddenly puzzled. Should go to the countryside. Chu Yong said for no reason. What do you mean? Grandpa went to the countryside. To the countryside. Tang Shui looked at Chu Yong rode a little bit aggressively. It's just a stock of a toilet table. Don't care, Chu Yong explained, and then continued, you can rest assured. With Mr. Tang's skill, these poisonous people can't hurt him, he should be safe now. Quote. That's good. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Tang Shui finally let go of his heart, as long as Tang Kun was fine. However, thinking of the poisoned man in the courtyard when he saw it in the sky, Tang Shuijian asked Chu Yong about the solution again. Then what should we do now? The whole Tangjiabao is all poisoned. I heard that there is a 5 poisonous beast hidden in Tangjiabao. This beast can solve all poisons in the world. These poisoned people are only eroded by the strange poison. They will naturally recover their consciousness. Seeing Tang Shuijian asking himself for a solution, Chu Yong thought about it and said. Then let's find it quickly. When Yan said, Tang Shui could not help but urge. Well, wait a minute. Chu Yong signaled to Tang Shui that after waiting for a while, he checked the system's route map to himself. Let's go. After looking at the place where the 5 poisonous beasts existed, Chu Yong said to Tang Shuijian. There are so many poisonous people on this road, you have to protect me. Tang Shui said cleverly, holding Chu Yang's arm. Rest assured that no one dares to hurt you with me. Even if it's Kangtian, it's true. Chu Yong said with a domineering look at Tang Shui. And just after Chu Yang's domineering speech, the system's audio frequency sounded in his mind. Ding. Pretend to be cautious. At present, the worlds heaven and earth have already disliked the host, and some of the origin points may be deducted when the mission is completed. Ding. Legend of Xian Jian Qi Sha 3, Tiandao strength is in the late 4-dimensional. And Chu Yang's smile gradually solidified after hearing the systematic voice. What's the matter with you? Tang Shui asked, puzzled, watching Chu Yang's look change. It's nothing, let's go find the 5 poisonous beasts. Then, Chu Yong took Tang Shui to see a way. With Chu Yong's ability, it is extremely easy to find the 5 poisonous beasts. After passing through some more easy trap levels, Chu Yong took Tang Shuijian to a pool. Is this the place where the 5 poisonous beasts are stored? After looking around for 4 weeks, Tang Shui could not help but say. That's right, and the 5 poisonous beasts are stored in the plate on the stone pillar of this pool. Chu Yong pointed to the plate on the stone pillar, and then, reaching out, he fetched the potatoes. Just as the hand was approaching the potato, Chu Yong suddenly felt a majestic force trying to push himself away. Is it instinctually resisting me? Unfortunately, I don't like others resisting me. After disdainful smile, Chu Yang's strength increased greatly, and in an instant, she broke open the power that tried to push her away. Hold the potatoes in your hands. Little guy, let's show the prototype. We have something to come to you during this trip. And Chu Yang's voice came to the ground. Tudu turned into an elf with 2 wings, flying around Chu Yong and Tang Shuijian. Hey, 5 poison beasts called to Chu Yong a few times. System, please translate it. I really don't understand what the 5 poisonous beasts are talking about. Watching the 5 poisonous beasts calling to himself, Chu Yong was a little aggressive, and then asked the system for help. Ding! The 5 poisonous beasts are saying, you are very annoying, and touched their body. Quote. Hearing the systematic translation, Chu Yong could not help but be speechless. What's wrong with you? Seeing something wrong with Chu Yong, Tang Shui suddenly asked. Nothing. Chu Yong shook his head, replied, and then set his sights on the 5 poisonous beasts. You guys, rest assured. I am Chu, someone who is a loud man and will never do anything to you excessive. Quote. Author. Japan has seen a snake. Japan has also been a ghost. Japan caterpillars have also appeared. He sent a current day of the potato. The author is thick. Lao Su will not be a potato. Chu Yong suddenly shouted. Asshole, what's the matter with you? After hearing Chu Yang's words, Tang Shui suddenly felt aggressive, and then he said. I was angry when I heard someone talking about me behind my back, but it's okay. Chu Yong smiled slightly. I always feel weird. Tang Shui frowned. It's just an illusion. Not much to say. When I conquer the 5 poisonous beasts, let's go out to rescue those people. Chu Yong said, then he turned his face to the 5 poisonous beasts, showing a spirit stone. 5 poisonous beasts dangled in front of their eyes. Little guy, this spirit stone is for you, how about being my pet in the future? Oh, the 5 poisonous beasts looked at the spirit stone in Chu Yong's hand and called again. What do you mean? System. Ding. She said this is not enough. If you give her 10 spirit stones every day, she promises to be your pet. The system interpreter. Lingxi. After hearing the words, Chu Yang's eyes flashed a strange color. This thing, he was not short of it. At the moment, thinking about it or not, he said to the 5 poisonous beasts, I accept your request, and I can give you 10 spirit stones a day. He said that there were 9 spirit stones in his hand. Staring at the spirit stone in Chu Yong's hands, the 5 poisonous beasts suddenly jumped up, and they circled around Chu Yong for dozens of times, then appeared humanoid and accepted the spirit stone. After putting the spirit stone in his own small pocket, he held Chu Yang's arm and said with a happy face, Master, you are so good. You are also very good. Watching the 5 poisonous beasts change into a human form, and became a lowly girl about 1 meter 6, Chu Yong licked her tongue and said. These 5 poisonous beasts are so good. Not only is it high in value, but it is also very cute, especially the one full of immortality, like the fairy's extraordinary temperament, deeply attracts Chu Yong and makes Chu Yang's desire move. Chu Yong. Author, I want to be the man of that potato. Author. I want to. Papa. Chu Yong. Author, you are awake, you are human. Author. For the wool that you can, do not you. Chu Yong. Sorry, I'm a werewolf, and most importantly, I have money. Author. It seems necessary to involve some yellow book. Anything else, is the author of ugly, too nasty protagonist, full of big stallion, and so missed what seemed to say. Suddenly, Chu Yong felt that the soft meat around his waist was pinched. Looking back, I realized that it was Tang Shuijian. Now, he quickly said with a playful look, are you jealous? Take care of her a little further, men and women can't accept it. And, I'm the woman in your name. Tang Shui pointed at the 5 poisonous beasts, and said with some anger. Master, she's so fierce, I don't like her. Watching Tang Shuijian pointing at himself and saying some inexplicable words, the 5 poisonous beasts were a little scared and authentic. Hannah, don't be afraid of her, she is also your master. Seeing that the 5 poisonous beasts are now very close to themselves, instead she was a little scared of her master Tang Shui in the original book, Chu Yong said with a smile. Hannah, is this the name you gave me, master? The 5 poison beasts asked with joy. Everything should have its own name. Wyan started for you, do you like it? Chu Yong smiled slightly. Like, the host is so wonderful. Not only does he supply the Hua Ling Ling Shi every day, but also gives Hua Yan the name. Hua Yan is so happy. Hua Yan leaned intimately on Chu Yang's broad shoulders, full of emotion. Said. Seeing Hua Yan leaning intimately on Chu Yang's shoulder, Tang Shui snorted coldly. Don't be angry. As my woman, you can only be happy, you can't be angry. Chu Yong squeezed Tang Shui and Jun saw his nose small. But when I saw her leaning on you like this, I felt very sad. Tang Shuijian said a little sadly. It's not easy. You can come over. After speaking, Chu Yong did not wait for Tang Shui to oppose her, and pulled her into her arms. Then she held 2 beautiful women, one big, one small, and rose up into the air and left this cave. As soon as he got out of the burrow, a lot of poisonous people rushed up. Looking at the poisonous people, Chu Yong wanted to open the killing ring, but remembering that these were all friends and family, Tang Shui saw he had to redeem a rope, tied them up. Hua Ling, go and help them detoxify. Pointing at the poisonous man like a cripple, Chu Yong said to Hua Ling beside him. Yes, master. After listening to Chu Yang's words, Hua Yan immediately walked to the poisoned man and began to detoxify. With the emergence of a yellow light, everyone present was instantly restored to consciousness. Where are we? Great, I'm fine. I remember I was bitten by the ghost. Look, that's Miss. A few people saw Tang Shuijian and said with joy. Seeing that everyone had recovered his sanity, Tang Shui could not help but glanced at Wyan, but did not expect this potato to be so powerful. Master, Wyo has cured them. Wyo put away his mana, walked to Chu Yong, and said nicely. Good job. I'll give you these spirit stones. After touching the head of Wyan, Chu Yong took out a dozen spirit stones and gave them to her. Thank you, master. Hua Yan took Ling Shi, thanked him quickly, and then put Ling Shi in a small pocket excitedly. No thanks. After all, you don't need to be like this. With that, Chu Yong began to stroke Hua Huan's head again. Okay. Hua Yang was so caressed by Chu Yong, she couldn't help squinting and enjoying it. Her mouth also made some comfortable moans. Don't make it. First tell her to heal all the people in Tangjiabao, and then go to my grandpa. I'm a little worried about him. Looking at Chu Yong stroking Wyan's head, Tang Shui was impatient. Tunnel. Okay. Seeing Tang Shui see this, Chu Yong had no choice but to pull his hand away from the flower head. Master, why don't you continue? Looking at Chu Yong pulling away, Wyan asked a little puzzled. The feeling of being touched was really comfortable. Wyan was very nostalgic. There is still work to do now, I have the chance to. After hearing Wawa's words, Chu Yong could not help explaining. Who knows, while Chu Yong was talking, a weak voice was uploaded from the roof. Brother, Shu Chengqing. Hearing this voice, Chu Yong immediately opened his eyes to look for the sound, and found the very weak Shu Chengqing on the roof. Now he couldn't help jumping up to the roof and lifted Shu Chengqing down. Aren't you going to deal with the poisoned person incident? How could it hurt the way it is now? It was found that Shu Chengqing had a lot of bleeding in his body, and Chu Yong was strangely. Since last night, I joined several brothers and sisters who have already gone down the mountain to go to the gambling house you called to find the poisoned man, but I did not expect that the man was too powerful, and the mother of the poisoned man and Tangman helped. We were unprepared for a while and returned home with a big defeat. My brother and I were all trapped there. Only I escaped. Shu Chengqing touched his chest, full of weakness and authenticity. Understand. Do I need to do it? Just one skill. Chu Yong looked at Shu Chengqing and said with a playful expression, when it was time to blackmail, he still had to blackmail. As long as you can rescue my classmates and handle this poisonous incident, I am willing to apply 3 methods. Shu Chengqing said. Okay. Chu Yong smiled slightly. What's so good? Don't you find me a grandfather? Tang Shui, who has been listening to the conversation between them, said. This girl, your grandpa should be in the hands of the man who controls the poisonous man. Hearing Tang Shui's words, Xu Chengqing thought for a moment and then said, "How do you know?" Tang Shui asked with some confusion. "Last night, after the defeat, I came here for the first time, intending to seek the help of my brother, but did not want to follow up. A one-eyed man broke in with dozens of poisoned men and took away one old man." Quote, "What? My grandpa was taken away." Hearing that, Tang Shui suddenly felt shocked, and then looked at Chu Yang full of nervousness. "Chu Yang, you fool, don't hurry to save my grandpa. If something happens to you, you can't remember me again in this life. Ignore you." Quote, "Is there any relationship between the two? Why did your grandpa ignore me if something happened? It wasn't me who did it." Chu Yang was forced by Tang Shui to see this theory. "I don't care, anyway, you have to rescue him now." Tang Shui yelled anxiously at Chu Yang. "As long as you promise me, I will marry another woman in the future, you will not stop me, I will save without a word." Chu Yang said with a serious face. "Are you serious?" Seeing Chu Yang say this, Tang Shui only felt a pain in his heart. Conscientiously, Chu Yang looked at Tang Shui and said, word by word, "Ah, no matter what, I can't bear your beast anyway, let me marry a few more. Go and save my grandpa." Thinking again and again, Tang Shui said at the sight, "Okay." After nodding, Chu Yang turned her head to look at Wyo, and patted her on the shoulder, "I'll leave it to you." After saying a few glances at Xu Chengqing, he rose into the sky, left Tangjiabao, and headed for the gambling house. Chu Yang only used 5 times the speed of sound, and in the blink of an eye came to the gambling house. At this time, there were no people in the gambling house, only some red blood spilled on the ground. After opening the perspective, I looked around at the casino. After finding the target, Chu Yang's mouth flashed a smile, then walked to the target and kicked heavily. Suddenly, a huge shock wave came out from the foot of Chu Yang. Everything around it was ruined. Looking at the big hole exposed after the ground broke, Chu Yang descended without hesitation. In the main hall of Perak Hall, a middle-aged man dressed in black and red said to Tang Kun sitting in a chair, "Old thing, didn't you think you finally fell into the hands of Lao Su?" However, Tang Kun ignored the middle-aged man and instead looked at the one-eyed man next to him. Why did you help Luo Ruli against me, and even provided him with poisonous techniques to create poisonous people? You know how much this would cause the trouble." Quote, "I want to be in charge, so I can only unite with Luo Ruli to deal with you. As for the poisonous people, it is also a backup method for us. Unless it is threatened by life, it will never be used against ordinary people." Tang Yi was afraid to look directly at Tang Kun. "Is it really important to be in charge? Even before you miss your father and son, betray me," Tang Kun said sadly. "You are so nice to Shui Jian, even so that my son is jealous. Now that you are old, but you have not decided on the next head candidate, it makes me a little worried that you finally chose to head over to Shui Jian, so I can only do this." "Don't blame me," Tang Yi said. You disappointed me. Although you were born in the side room, and you still stunned, I never hated you, and I even hoped that I would train you to become a man in the right place to take charge of Tangjiabao, but don't want you to be so now, colluding with outsiders, creating poisonous people." Tang Kun's eyes were full of tears, but he didn't expect that in the end, his only son would put him to death. "Don't lie to me. Have you ever cared about me? When you were young, you targeted me everywhere. Every day you either forced me to practice or let me do that. Even the people laughed at me and said I lived well. They are not as good. Also, you would rather look at that Tang Shuijian more than see me more. When you treat Tang Shuijian, you treat her as a favorite, to me. Only indifference and ruthlessness." Tang Yi looked at Tang Kun with eyes full of hatred. "Tang Yi, Hugh is going to talk too much. He will kill this old guy. As soon as he dies, you will be in charge of Tang men." Seeing Tang Yi and Tang Kun telling the same story, Luo Ruli fearful that something had changed and he could not help urging, "Don't blame me, all this was forced." Then, Tang Yi pulled out a poisonous dagger and stabbed towards Tang Kun's chest. Seeing that sharp dagger stabbed at himself like this, Tang Kun's eyes had no sorrow and joy. Shuijian had already belonged, and he had no regrets in his life. However, when the dagger was about to stab Tang Kun's chest, a sudden change occurred. Tang Yi's dagger was melted into a pile of molten iron by a fiery red laser and dropped on the ground. It's almost late, but it's okay, too late. Chu Yang stood in the void, looking down at the humanity present. Chu Yang friends, why are you here? Is Tang Jiabao safe now? Is Shuijian okay? Looking at Chu Yang floating in the void, Tang Kun hurriedly asked. Master Tang. Seeing Tang Kun asking these questions, Chu Yang answered without thinking or thinking, but was interrupted by Luo Ruli before he finished speaking. Bold, who are you? How dare you break into Lilitang, are you tired? Luo Ruli looked at Chu Yang and said suddenly with a bad expression. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.